This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to Rugby Radio Live, and with all the welfare breaks now over, we've got a full programme of matches today across the top three divisions of Scottish rugby, so strap yourself in for a packed 2.5 hours, and right away let's go down to the Green Yards where Ian Hurd and Robin Purdy are today. And Robin, both Melrose and Watsonians could certainly do with a win today, both on a bit of a losing streak.
Yes, I would say that both are desperate for a win. Melrose coming off 5 losses on the spin, Watsonians now up to 3 losses on the spin, so yeah, I think any sort of win will do either of these teams just fine today. And dare I say, it's very pleasing that there's no welfare break today of all days, because it is absolutely glorious here at the Green Yards. You could not ask for a better day for rugby. Sun is shining, lovely and warm, not a breath of wind. And yeah, here's hoping for a great game. And
absolutely no excuses at all for, we've got the dry ball, we've got no wind, no rain, perfect.
Oh, absolutely. And, there's the firm surface here as well. So, yeah, I've been down around both camps, Stuart, and I'd say there's a steely determination about both these teams today. They look bang up for it.
Well, of course, last night under the lights at Mansfield Park, Hawick played Curry. It ended with a win for Hawick by 38 points to 26. Hawick had a lot of new players in the team as well, certainly helped them.
Oh, I think it'll definitely help them, sure. There's no two ways about it, but it's all pretty much all we've spoken about all week. You play with the cards you're dealt, to be honest, and Hawick made the absolute most of that last night. I don't think Curry can have too many complaints, to be honest, but yeah, what a cat among the pigeons that result has been. That's catapulted Hawick up to almost the heady heights of mid-table, and it's certainly given the likes of Glasgow Hawks and Melrose and Selkirk, even right up to Kelso, something to think about. Hawick didn't have a game last week due to the failure of the bus company to want to take them through air, and results really went against them in other games. So what better way to respond than to come up with in all honesty, an unforeseen but brilliant result against, playoff contenders.
Yes, we'll be talking to Graham Hogg at half-time, the head coach of Hawick, and also to Charlie Brett of Curry. But earlier on, you spoke with both head coaches, Watsonians' Davy Wilson, and first let's hear what you had to say to Melrose Scott White.
Another narrow loss last week, played 6, lost 5, but with a points difference of only -4. I mean, that's almost hard to believe.
It's no easy. I think, it'd be more of a worry, look, if we're getting beat by 40 or 50 points, but to know we're so close every week, it's just, the word we've used this week is clinical. We've not been clinical enough. We're creating opportunities. Last week, for instance, we had 2 2v1s on the full-back. Essentially butchered them both and got held up 3 times. Rowley chucks a forward pass just before half-time, gives them an entry. We go into half-time 10-5 instead of 10-0. So, and that's all controllables. And I think that's something we've highlighted just in terms of how we stay in the moment and are we as clinical as we can be on every facet of the game. So, look, it'll be interesting. We've obviously made 7 changes for last week. We bring people back. We've had a bit of rotation. There's something not clicking. But I think, we've got a lot of firepower on paper. But it's whether or not the boys actually turn up. But, they've turned up. There's a bit of steely focus as we're just discussing. So, yeah, look, we've prepped well. So now it's up to them to perform.
And are you able to put your finger on why these narrow losses have not been wins? Is it a mentality thing? Is it because Melrose have not been challenging at the very top for a while now and have maybe fallen out of the habit of winning tight games?
I think there's a wee bit of that, but I think it just goes back to kind of the first kind of answer there in terms of the clinical enough. We're creating chances. We've got 4 losing bonus points. Sorry, we've got 3 bonus tries. And, essentially that's probably why we're above Selkirk. But we're creating chances every week. Sometimes it's really difficult. You focus on something that much through the week that then it's like the other part of the game gets forgotten about. So you go on attack focus and then defence is poor at the weekend. You then go defence focus. You then miss a couple of opportunities in attack. It's a real mixture, and it's if I knew that we'd be winning games, that's the hard thing. But no, look, we've worked hard, and I think it's just as we speak about, it's just all about us in terms of let's not focus what they can do and let's just narrow in on what we can do as a squad.
And there's been a lot of talk this week about the release of pro players, and we've heard from a few coaches in our podcast, etc. But where do you stand in the debate, Scott?
Look, I think I love it in terms of, I think we harp on about that young Scottish kids don't get enough opportunities, and I think what Rory McCaffrey's done. I think you look at the Hawick result last night. We've obviously got Ben White today and Dylan Coburn. Watsonians have got 3 guys, and if we're not part of that, where do these kids then get rugby? So I think for us, at Melrose, essentially, we fully back it, and I think we've got to be part of their journey as well. Or essentially they get wrapped in cotton wool every day. They don't play, and then Scotland 20s get pumped. And I mean, I think that's the reality of it. And I think everybody wants a strong Premiership. Everybody wants to get back to it. If these kids are playing every week, it'll be a stronger Premiership.
And the club players tend to accept it pretty well when they're benched or left out in favour of the pro lads, or is there a feeling of resentment? No,
I think that's performance related, and I think we'll pick accordingly. I think there'll always be reasons behind it, and I think today, obviously, Dobie's been playing really well, but I think it's a great opportunity. He's played 80 minutes every week for 5 weeks, so is he at the stage that so you can play about with it as well. So it's great in terms of managing your squad, keeping boys fresh. So to have Ben White in today to then essentially put Dobie on the bench, and it's all about in terms of where we've lost the games over the last four or 5 weeks, probably the last 15-20 minutes, so to have Dobie, Zen, Dougie Crawford, these guys on the bench, that's obviously something that we speak about as well, making sure that we've got a bench that can complement it and really come on and finish a game.
I was going to say, strong look about the squad today, as did the Storm last night. It looks like you've had some tough calls this week.
Look, it's tough every week. I mean, and as I say, that's why we went with so many changes this week, because we just feel there's just something not clicking. So we've made changes. Dougie's obviously been at 9 for the first 6 weeks. Scotty Clark came back, trained. Obviously Donald Crawford back from injury, only got 9 minutes. Last night you've got Stuart Kirk came down for Dundee in terms of, so both of them playing up at Peebles last night. They win again, so then that squeezes pressure on the boys here today to get a performance, or they'll be knocking on the door on Tuesday night and asking questions.
And lastly, Scott, looking at today's game, where do you think you can get the upper hand on a Watsonian side who are also desperate to halt a run of defeats? I
mean, it's difficult. I mean, they're very well drilled. They've got a good pack. They've got your Quagga Van Nierix and boys up front. And they've kind of mixed. They've kind of mixed it up. They've brought Andy McLean back to 10, who was at 15 last week. They've moved Lo McPherson out on the wing. So it's hard to analyse that, because they've obviously made a few changes as well. So we're gonna go at them up front. And I think the reality is the old way you speak about it, if you win the physical battle and you win up front, you've got a great chance in the game. So I think first and foremost it starts at scrum time and it starts at line out time. And I think in terms of where we're at, we've got to be solid defensively today. When they're bringing Dom Cotes back in at full back and stuff, they've got threats all the pitch. So we've got to be connected defensively, and then attack. Look, we'll come and play rugby as we always do.
So Davey, I was at your game v Curry last week. You were absolutely outstanding in the first half, into the wind, and looked nailed on for a victory at half time, but then the wheels came off a wee bit in the second half. What do you put that down to?
That came down to game management, if truth be told. The half time message was to just keep doing what we were doing, and if we were going to kick, let's try and kick on the front foot. We didn't do that. I think we overplayed, and when we did try to kick, we kicked at the wrong time, and that just allowed Curry to maintain momentum. I just think we spoke about this through the week. It's how do we reset and how do we reboot to get back on track. And I think ultimately, as I keep emphasising, we've got an element of inexperience in the side, and it's about trying to get some kind of order in what we're trying to do, and we just didn't do that. So we compounded error on error, and then that allowed Curry to get their tails up.
Topic of the week, been a lot of chat of course about Release Academy pros, the distribution of them between the clubs and so on and so forth. Where do you stand on the subject?
Yeah, it's interesting. I listened to the coaches where Bob McKillop and et al were talking about that. Look, I think absolutely right that these young guys get an opportunity to play, but I do have some concerns around what that balance should be in any given squad on a week by week basis. So yes, they're young players and such like, but if you look at last night's result, Hoyt get a good result against Curry, was that ultimately down to the fact that they had five guys there making quite a significant difference to their performance? I don't know, but I welcome the fact that we get these guys playing. It's the impact that maybe they have when we get to the business end of the season that people might start to question around, ratios and numbers. But I think it's a healthy thing. But I think we just have to have a bit of caution there.
And you mentioned the game last night. Curry had what some might see as a bit of a shock defeat down at Hawick. Does that give you guys, who are also genuine playoff contenders, a wee bit of extra impetus today?
Look, I think we just focus about we're trying to do and achieve today, I think the league will, just as a matter of course, will run its path. I think ultimately in any given day in this league, and I even think Ayr, dare I say it, I think sides are much more competitive, and that reflects in some of the scorelines that we're seeing. So for me, whatever happened last night, taking aside the academy players, I think on any given day sides will maybe get a good result here and there.
Melrose are coming into this on the back of 5 straight losses. So is there a sense of sort of beware of the wounded animal for you guys today?
100%. And I think although they, much like ourselves, although they've had those losses, they've not been far away. I mean, they challenged Curry, they challenged Ayr. I've watched them quite closely in terms of analysis. They play a good brand of rugby. They look after the ball. This is an ideal surface for them. It's an ideal day for them. So it's about us trying to really work hard to slow that tempo down and really apply pressure.
And looking at your squad today, Ronan Kerr's back. You mentioned him when I spoke to you last week. He's back in the centre today. Just how big a boost is that?
Yeah, he's a massive boost for us. He's a quiet operator as Ronan, but he, for us, was our sort of player of the season last year. He does the simple things very well. And it's just good to have a player of that calibre back in the squad. But he's not played for quite a considerable period of time, so it's what he can get up to today, and we will obviously have to monitor him in terms of game time as well.
At 10, you've gone for Andy McLean this week instead of Chris Bell. Does that tell us a bit about your game plan today? Maybe more of a running game that's suited to the surface here at Greenyard?
I think Chris was unfortunate because we've got Henry Woodison on the bench from the academy. Chris, we like Chris as a player as well, but I think just we felt this week perhaps putting Andy in at 10 just gives us a different dynamic, and also allows Dom Coetza to get into that 15 position.
Watsonians head coach Davy Wilson, before him Melrose's Scott White. Well, staying in the Premiership and at Poynter Park this afternoon, it's Kelso versus Heriots. Waiting for us there is David Ferguson.
2 mid-table teams meet at Poynter Park this afternoon, with Kelso aiming to protect their 100% home record, but Heriots will be their first opposition here from outside the borders. The visitors started the season with thumpings at the hands of Ayr and Melrose, but have since beaten Watsonians in GHA and drawn at Hawick, so they're on the up. They also have more key players back from injury in recent weeks, and in Henry Kisterton at centre have one of the brightest young players in Scottish rugby. Kelso also have their own young star back today with Jack Utterson at hooker, while Bruce McNeill is at number 8, restored to the pack, and with Liam Herdman missing with injury, Dwayne Patterson returns to standoff and Hamish Tweedy is back on the wing. The Kelso pitch is bathed in glorious sunshine as I look out from the stand, so the stage is set for an entertaining Premiership game here between Kelso and Heriots.
Thank you, David. And earlier on, David spoke to Heriots head coach Bob McKillop and also Kelso's head coach, co-head coach Nicky Walker.
So, Nicky, tell me about your thoughts today in terms of what challenge that Heriots bring.
I think Heriots, obviously they didn't get off to the start that they wanted to, but I knew they would sort of find their feet. I think there's been a big turnover in their squad from what they've been previously challenging last year and also being a Super 6 side. But as I said, bringing young players in, they found their feet, and they're looking like they are going to be one of those teams that are going to climb the table and get into the top 4. So it's going to be a real tough challenge for us today. Again, they've got the addition of some academy boys coming in. We've got 1 with Jack, they've got 3, so that does make a difference. But we're playing at home, we've won all our home games so far, so we're really excited by the challenge, and we feel like we can take anybody on down here, so hopefully that's the case today.
And yeah, a couple of changes there for you today, with Jack Utterson coming back, which is a welcome return. Bruce McNeill coming back into the side as well. It strengthens up at that pack, and you've got the switch at standoff with Liam Herdman out, and so you move Dwayne Patterson back in there, which means Hamish Tweedy comes back in. So all good players, all players that you can count on.
And it shows the squad's depth. We can make changes like that and have a couple of knocks and bring people in where we're not so much weakened as what we probably have been previously. So yeah, it's good to have Bruce's experience back, and Jack Utterson tends to always play well, and we'll hopefully see that again today. And Dwayne's playing in his position that he wants to play as a 10. I think Dwayne can play across the whole back line, but he's our captain, playing at 10, running the team, and hopefully he can sort of confirm his place in that position today and carry that on. But we're looking forward to seeing him play there. He's trained really well there this week, and he's had shots there previously and done well, so I expect him to put in a good performance and lead the side as captain today like he always does.
What's the matter with Liam?
Liam's taken a knock, so he took a head knock last week, so it's a bit precautionary just to look after him. He's had a few knocks in his body, he throws himself into everything, to be honest. When you watch him play, he's a nice looking rugby player, but if you watch him in detail, he chucks himself into everything physically, and he's been carrying a few knocks, so we're just looking after him and making sure that he's okay for the rest of the season.
Bruce McNeil, your co-coach, spoke in the week about this being a must-win. It might sound early for that, but you've got Ayr and Curry to come in following weeks, so is that why there's so much on today?
I think there is a bit of pressure on today, because of obviously those fixtures coming up, but I think we've had 2 or 3 opportunities now this season already to jump into the top 4, and we've not took those opportunities. We're very close to sort of breaking away from where we have been previously in terms of the bottom of the table, scraping, looking down, looking at relegation rather than looking up at top 4. And to get that change and turn that sort of culture of what we are, I think we need to start winning these games against teams like Heriots and sort of jump into that group of teams that are just above us, top 5, top 6, and be competing for a playoff place.
So, Bob, a lovely sunny day down here at Kelso. You'll be looking forward to another away trip. I'm sure you've had 2 wins at home. Yep. It's about breaking that duck for you now, isn't it, getting a win on the road?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've spoken about that. We're pleased to see the sunshine. I have to say the pitch is probably the best pitch I've seen this year. I think it's an excellent quality. So yeah, look, we're really looking forward to it. We think we've got a pretty good team, but we also know that Kelso are going to bring quite a big storm at us from the start of the game, which we will need to try and outsmart and outfight. So looking forward to it.
You had a difficult start to the season, stripped a lot of points in those first 2 games. You've had to build back from that, and a good win last week. You had a good win at home against Watsonians, good win against GHA last week. How are you managing to turn that round?
Yeah, so thanks for not mentioning the draw at Hoyk.
Of course, that's right, that as well.
Yeah, look, we're building a new team, and I think when you build a new team and you're introducing new players and new moves, sometimes things get a little bit worse before ideally they get a whole lot better. We thought against Watsons and Curry things were starting to get better, but our performance against Hoyk was nowhere near acceptable or where we want it to be. Last week, much more like it. So we've got to start to put some things together. We don't want last week to be a flash in the pan. So today's an important game for us.
And how do you win down here then against Kelso when you know what to expect here? You know they're up in front of their own crowd. What does it take to win here? Yeah,
I think it's all about energy. So I think the first thing you do is you take away their energy by being solid in everything that you do. So your set piece is good, your defence is good, you keep hold of the ball in the right areas of the pitch, and critically, if you're not in the right areas of the pitch, be happy to kick it and don't play a constant Herriot style of rugby. Second thing is don't feed their energy, which comes from lack of discipline, which gives them easy yards and easy attacking positions, and compounding errors, trying to force things. So there's no doubt there'll be mistakes in the first 20 minutes, so we'll be under pressure, there'll be mistakes. You just don't want to compound those and have 1 or 2. If anyone's seen the last 3 minutes of the Hoyt game, it's a textbook compounding of errors, how you go from 98 metres down the pitch with 2 minutes to go with 4 penalties and lose the game.
So you're looking for a good game, but you're looking for one that you can control.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we love coming here, right? It's a proper rugby club. The crowd will be noisy, be a fiery welcome on the pitch. So it's one of those places you love to come, but deep down you don't really like to come either. So it is brilliant. It's what rugby's all about.
Always good to hear from Bob McKillop and Nicky Walker as well. And Dave Ferguson before that, he's reporting on the match between Kelso and Heriots at Poynter Park. Well, GHA lost their unbeaten record at Heriots last week, but they have another one to defend today. That's 16-match home record undefeated, and they face the champions, Ayr, surely their biggest test to date. Sam Matthews has made the trek to Braidholme.
That's right, Stuart. I can officially tick Braidholme off the list. I arrived at roughly the same time the defending champions did, but they come here with an air of worry. As Grant Anderson mentioned in the preview show this week, you can officially be GHA'd. I personally think that's a bit unfair. This outfit has looked very much Premiership quality. They currently sit 5 wins from 6 games, and they have deserved each win. 3 of them coming with less than 10 points though, so it shows they like to put in a fight, but they do stay on for the full 80 minutes, as Selkirk can testify. Ayr though, Still very much the standard in Scottish amateur rugby. They come here second in the table after Curry's win last night, currently displacing the top, but they do only sit 2 points behind in the table with only 10 points scored less for them, with a plus 97 differential. A very strong outfit, and as you will predict, a very strong team. In terms of team news, they have 4 out from the last team sheet that was meant to go out against Hawick, but also 4 changes compared to their last game. They actually got to play in that impressive away win against Watsonians. Andy Stirrat is out for Scott Watson, Adam McGowan is out for Fergus Johnson, Joe Roberts is out for Jamie McGothry, and Ryan Sweeney is replaced by Tim Brown. All 4 of those subs coming off the bench in their last game out they played at Myerside, so they must have impressed the head coach. Home side also make 4 changes, with Drummond and Callaghan dropping to the bench in exchange for Jackson making his debut and Harry McKenzie. Out altogether is Ventusy and Little, their top try scorer with 5 tries. He'll be a big miss, but Callum Forrester has spoke highly of Nolan, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do on that wing. All the action from Braidholme will come at 3 p.m.
And let's hear from those coaches. Grant Anderson from Ayr, and first of all, GHA's head coach Callum Forrester.
So Callum, back at home, and I don't know if you heard the podcast today, but you've now been given your own verb of GHAing people. How does that feel?
I heard Grant use that a few weeks ago as well, and I think he probably refers back to the last time GHA and Ayr played here, where we beat them in the kind of National 1 top of the table clash there, and I think that's because he knows that with our group of boys we've got a real collectiveness. Take us on here, we'll have a real good go at them, and if you want to upset a strong Ayr team today, you need to get in about them later today as well.
You mentioned the stronger team. When looking at the team sheets, I noticed that Drummond, one of your top point scorers from the boot, is on the bench, but also Little's out of the squad. How tough is it when you lose 2 players like that before a big game?
Yeah, no, I think it's a kind of attrition that the Premiership has, but the positive thing for me is that we've still got a really strong squad out there today. Ross Nolan comes in the wing for Glenn Little. Ross started the first game of the season. We've unfortunately not seen him since then, but he was romping it for the 2s last week, and he's good to go again for the 1s, and a big physical player that can really challenge his opposite man on the wing out there today.
And lastly, I've mentioned in my pre-game interview, you have a lot of close games. 3 of the 5 wins came with less than 10 points margin of victory on the scoreboards. How important is it to stay in a game for the full 80 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely is, and I think that I kind of alluded to after last week's game. At this level, you need to stay in it for the full 80. Otherwise, the better teams will find a way to beat you. The earlier games, there was bits we'd put ourselves in front, teams caught up, or the other way around. Selkirk went cruising ahead of us. They probably thought the game was out of sight, but we've got a good mentality amongst this group that if you stay in it, you keep going. And that was the hugely frustrating thing last week, was that we weren't at the races, and it showed. And by goodness, we need to be fully back at it today against this Ayr team.
And lastly, how does it feel to be talking about situations like that, where you're away at Heriots, but you're sat there going, I'm disappointed with the result, because there was something to be taken from that in the end?
Oh, I mean, this group have been on a huge run the last couple of years, and it's been great for the players and the coaching staff to be a part of. If you'd said after week 0 that you're going to be sitting 5 from 6, you'd be delighted. But the way we'd started, that's where that was the frustrating part of it last week. So we've accomplished a lot, this group, and there's no better way to bounce back from that, playing against the league champions.
And then lastly, how do you plan to take on the league champions? Is there going to be a specific game plan, or is there little exploits that you've noticed in the film room?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if you look at how Curry took Ayr on a few weeks ago, you need to have the confidence that they're a big physical team. You need to be able to move the ball close to that point of contact and keep them on their toes as well. So it's something we look forward to, something we're working hard on, and there's a lot of familiar faces in that team with some of our boys as well, so I think it could get tasty at points today.
Well, Grant, let's say rested and rejuvenated squad with 2 weeks off, but 2 weeks in the middle of the season to get some bodies back is never a bad thing.
No, we looked at the silver lining there, and we made training this week really, really intense, especially Tuesday. We really went after it and got a good physical session to prepare us for today, so yeah.
You get 4 changes out from the last team that actually went onto the pitch. A good win against Watsonians away, but there was 4 changes on the team sheet last week as well. Does that mean you had some more activity on the Saturday? Did you get the boys to have a run around? And lastly, how important is it making sure people are right up to the minute for a Thursday training session to be ready?
I think for me, we try to rotate all the time. We've probably done it a wee bit less so this year than last year, but we've got a kind of plan, a 4-week plan for selection, and that's kind of largely driven by how boys train as well as how many minutes they've had. So I was pleased to hear that some of the boys wanted to play for the 2s last week. Obviously their game went ahead, obviously got a good bus company, but so we were pretty pleased with the minutes that they got, and then training dictated how we wanted to play this game. I think we really want to execute a power game, so I've gone to what I believe is the right squad in terms of forwards and backs for this game today, to give us a platform to then execute.
And then lastly, talk to me how it feels. You're now technically second in the table, because obviously Curry and Hoyk played last night, and one for the purists, I think is how it's been described on the scoreboards. But how does that then affect the team, saying we're so close to the top, we've got 2 games in hand, but we're still technically not top of the league?
There's been no chat of that whatsoever. I didn't even realise that was the case. So, I mean, the thing with the playoff, and I know Stuart's, there's always a bit of patter about the playoff and all that. I mean, Curry lost their first, 6 or 7 games last year and ended up finishing 3rd. So, I'm not looking at the table stand. Nobody wins a trophy in October, so I'm not really fussed about that.
Oh, I do love a bit of patter on the playoffs, that's for sure. Well, Selkirk are at home to Glasgow Hawks today, both in the bottom half of the table at the moment. But let's switch to National 1, Gala against Biggar this afternoon, and covering that one for us is Ewan Swinton.
We are set today for a battle between 2 sides who are viewing this match as a must-win scenario. It's perhaps a little early in the year for that, but both Biggar and Gala are determined to take something from today. We know that Biggar will bring their traditional forward strengths and no shortage of guile in the backs. It's an interesting Gala selection, which includes Murray Wilson returning to start in the centre and John Turnbull joining him after a period out with concussion. At number 10, we have young Hamish Segi, who is making his first start in that position. Hamish is a youngster, 17 years old, whose skill and strength and determination belie his tender years. In the forwards, Robbie Irvin returns at number 8, celebrating his South call-up, and is joined by Sam Smith, also returning from injury, and Daniel Kerr, who brings height and ability to the line out. So the scene is set. It couldn't be better for a great day of rugby, and let battle commence.
There we are, he's up for it, isn't he? Ewan Swinton, the former director of rugby, of course, at Gala. He's at the game today at Netherdale. Quickly running through the other games for you today in the Premiership. So it's GHA against Ayr, Kelso v Heriots, Melrose against Watsonians, Selkirk v Glasgow Hawks in National 1, Boroughmuir v Gordonians, Edinburgh Accies against Jed Forest, Gala play Biggar, Glasgow Accies against Mar, and Stirling County v Musselburgh. National 2, Berwick v Newton Stewart, Falkirk against GHK, Highland v Peebles, Howe Fife hosting Dundee, and Kirkcaldy against Stewart's Melville. But the game we're concentrating on is the commentary match between Melrose and Watsonians, and we'll head there next.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
If you're hearing this, then so could your customers. To advertise on Rugby Radio's 2 Saturday shows and also the Scottish Club Rugby podcast, get in touch via our website at rugbyradio.co.uk. Advertising and sponsorship packages are available for the whole season or on a monthly basis. Help support what we do to promote club rugby in Scotland using our contact page at rugbyradio.co.uk.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
Borders Mortgage Hub.
When it's time to celebrate the big wins, on and off the pitch, choose Oakham Black, one of the UK's leading suppliers of sustainable medals, trophies and gifts. Great moments deserve to be remembered, with custom designs made just for your club, school or business. Oakham Black. Celebrate, acknowledge, inspire. Find out more at oakamblack.com.
Oak and Black. This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
Exactly 3 o'clock, time to cross to the Green Yards for full commentary of Melrose against Watsonians this afternoon, and covering the game for us today, Ian Hurd. And first, a good afternoon to Robin Purdy.
Good afternoon, Stuart. Welcome to Green Yards, and what is a beautiful autumn afternoon, perfectly suited for running rugby, but you do get the sense that both of these clubs would happily take a 6-3 win in order to end a losing run, with Melrose having lost 5 on the spin and Watsonians 3. And last night's brilliant win for Hoyk over Curry could have implications here today. Another Melrose loss could see them at the foot of the table come 5 o'clock, whereas a win for Watsonians will see them make up ground on Curry in the quest for a home semi-final come the playoffs. Looking at the teams, Finn Douglas moves to 15 for Melrose. Connor Spence and Paddy Anderson on the wings. The Aussie combo of Declan Mulcahy and Corey Goldsborough are in the centres, with Rolly Brett at 10 and Scott Clark at 9. Ben White, Logan Kirk and Adam Arkley form the front row. Skipper Angus Runciman and Angus Weir in the Boiler House, with the back row made up of Dylan Coburn, Elliot Ruthven and Rue Campbell. Watsonians have Dom Coates back at full back, Loman McPherson and Harry Fisher out wide. Ronan Kerr partners Harry Clark in the midfield, with Adam McKenzie and Andy McLean at 9 and 10. Front rows Donald Vos, Boyd Cooper and Cole Lamberton. Christian Lindsay, Louis Ball are the second row, with the loose forwards being Quaggavan Niekirk, the captain, Campbell Wilson and Harry Jackaman. The refs Michael Todd. The ARs are Gordy Reid and Gordon Galashan. And we're just about to kick off here. Watsonians kick off towards the Eildons, and that's a decent kick-off that's been acrobatically taken by Rory Campbell for Melrose. That was a brilliant take and their first carry of the day for the big Melrose prop, Edinburgh Academy player Ben White, who's come into the starting lineup today. Give Jack Dobie a rest, as well as bringing his own talents to the party, and that's a good clutch out there, good take out there. It was an up and under. It was taken in by the highly talented Dom Coates, the Watsonians fullback. So Watsonians now in the Melrose half and a decent chance to attack. Christian Lindsay, another Edinburgh Academy player, on show this afternoon for Watsonians. He was particularly impressive last week in the loss to Curry, but Watsonians now, the little half break and a beautiful offload here. They're in. It's a 2-on-1 situation, and under the posts is going to go the scrum half Adam McKenzie. And Ian Hurd, who's alongside me today. Not had the chance to introduce you, Ian, good afternoon, but we've seen it so often from Melrose this season that they've conceded early doors.
Yeah, good afternoon, Robin. This has happened again to Melrose. I don't know what the problem is. They seem to fall asleep in that centre place position. Again, similar there. The Watsonians player just made that half break, popped the ball inside, and then it was just a simple 2-on-1 to McKenzie, who's running from about 25 yards away, leaving a very simple conversion for the Watsonians player. I mean, disappointing. They took the first kick off really well. Good acrobatic stuff, as you said, by Rue Campbell. Put up a good up and under. Coates took it really well, and then it just seemed to switch off for some reason.
Did need the conversion, as you'd expect, is good from bang in front. Harry Clark, talented young centre on kicking duties today. But Adam McKenzie, he run the classic scrum halves line. It was a break in the midfield, as Ian said. Adam McKenzie run the classic scrum half line to take his try tally to 2 for the season. Signed from Edinburgh Accies in the summer, and there's an injury here to a Melrose player as well. That looks like Logan Kirky, and just to compound matters, you don't want to lose your hooker this early in the game.
Definitely not. I mean, it's obviously a specialist position, and Logan's obviously in there from the very start, and it doesn't look good. There's a bit of chatter on the microphones we can see from here, and physio and doctor there look quite concerned. Looks like an ankle, so obviously if he goes off, who do they bring on from there?
I'm not seeing the Melrose bench today is Jack Dobie, he's a prop. Zenj Varjak is a prop. Ollie Furness a back row second row. Will Ferry's a prop come back row. Sam Derrick's a back row. Doug Crawford's a 9 and Logan Carroll is the 10. Now I have to say, I've seen Will Ferry practising his throwing in with coach Craig Greer prior to kick off, so I would imagine that Will Ferry will need to come on somewhere. Yeah, Logan Kirk looks like his race is run. Unfortunately, he is hobbling off. That's sad to see early in the piece. Logan Kirk, of course, who's become a Premiership level operator in recent times. But no, it's Jack Dobie coming on. So Jack Dobie's coming on. I would imagine he'll go to hooker, Ian, and that's going to be interesting to see what happens at the touchline.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, so hookers are a little bit redundant in terms of the ball going into second row's feet, but you've got to think about what are they going to do when it comes to throwing the ball in at lineouts.
So we'll see how that one pans out. The kickoff wasn't cleanly taken by Watsonians, but they've managed to win the ball just outside their own 22, and it looks like it's going to be the first box kick of the afternoon by the try scorer Adam McKenzie, and that's gone high into Melrose sky, and that's contestable as well. It's been panned back by a Watsonians player, and they've got the ball here with numbers if they can see to use them. Loman McPherson has got the 10, Andy McLean for company, and McLean, Melrose have made a mess of that, and there's a penalty coming to Watsonians. They try to go up the narrow side just on halfway. McKenzie, the scrum half, he's at the bottom of that, so Jackaman plays 9. There's a little chip through there, and it's been taken in by Corey Goldsborough, but advantage was being played, so the first penalty of the afternoon conceded by Melrose as well. 4 minutes gone here. It's Melrose 0, Watsonians 7. Now, Ian, a factor in this game, you mentioned it just pre-kickoff when we were speaking off air, and what's reminded me of it, I'm looking at the scoreboard and I cannot see it. And that's this kind of low autumn sun could play havoc with fullbacks in particular.
It certainly could. I don't think it's very often that two Scotsmen are commentating a game on October the 11th complaining about the sun, but I did have a wander out on the edge of the pitch before the game started, and from the Oldens, basically the sun's above the Oldens at the moment, and it really is strong. So, you know, high balls up into the air is going to be quite difficult for Watsonians in this case.
And they've kicked the penalty to touch. It's a line out just outside the 22, and it's well taken by Lindsay, and that gives Campbell Wilson a chance to play scrum half, and they're winning the gain line at the moment, the men from Myerside, and that's a carry by Cole Lamberton, the latest to truck it up, and Mackenzie, it will be at the base of that. Mackenzie goes to McLean, this diminutive but talented playmaker. That's a loose pass, so that's not going to help the cause, and they've gone backwards 10 metres here. Harry Fisher, the wingers, had to take it in and do some spade work, but they've got back into position here. Donald Vos, veteran prop these days you'd call him, but still does a fantastic job. Mackenzie again to McLean, and that's the young hooker Boyd Cooper. He's come in this season from Strathallan School. Again, it's not the tidiest, so they're going to have to go back, but a little bit of space is opened up there, and it's a half break, almost turning into a full break for the scrum half. He's had a fine start to the game, Adam Mackenzie, and they've got numbers again on the far side, and that's another beautiful offload by Harry Clark, but it's gone forward in there. And Ian, I thought pre-match, you know, you mentioned they were both down pitch side. Both these teams did look to have a steely determination about them, but I think Davy Wilson and the Watsonians coaching staff, you know, the likes of Finn Gillis, Mike Kerr, will be absolutely delighted with how their charges have started. Yeah, I think they've started the game really well. You know, they've got in the face of Melrose. Melrose defence has been good, but what they have done really well is they identified little dog legs there. So another great example of that there just now. Mackenzie gets the ball at the back of the ruck. It's not the greatest of ball, but unfortunately what happens is that the Melrose defence comes up as a dog leg. Somebody shoots out the line, leaves a gap, and he's got the pace to go through. So Melrose need to just tidy that defence up a bit, come up in a straight line, because when they've got that, they do look quite competitive in terms of defensive work. So Melrose scrum on their own 10 metre line, 15 metres in from the non-stand side here at the Greeners. That's a solid first scrum by both packs. So it comes to Mulcahy. Mulcahy goes route one. He's had a fine season so far, the Aussie, the Sydney sider, as has his mate Corey Goldsborough, fellow centres today, and Angus Runciman, the skipper, also the South skipper. Congratulations to him. He has his first carry. Scott Clark, who's been brought into the side today, has a little nibble. He's been brought in place of Doug Crawford, who's on the bench, which might suggest Melrose intend to play a different type of game today. He's a wee bit more pragmatic. Clark, Elliot Ruthven, not making too much headway here, Melrose, but they're still in possession, and it's Clark to Rolly Brett at 10 to Campbell. That's a decent ball out the back, and Finn Douglas, the highly dangerous Finn Douglas, has come into the line. Now it's Paddy Anderson, his first carry. He's taken them up to halfway. Melrose attacking the St Mary's Road end in their familiar black and yellow attire, and it's the playmaker, and that's a decent run line being cut there by Ben White. That's a decent trundle, takes them up into Watsonians territory, and that's a nice miss pass as well to Elliot Ruthven. Elliot Ruthven's tackled there. One of the tacklers was Louis Ball of Watsonians. He put in a mountain of tackles last week. Now that's been knocked on by Angus Weir, but it did come off the toe in the act of dropping it. I'll come back to you on that one in just a second, but if there was an advantage, it's been lost anyway, because Watsonians have kicked it down the park, and Rudy Campbell has the chance to attack, but he's had his pocket pinched there. You can see what he's trying to do, but the ball has come back on the Watsonian side, and Watsonians winning the game line. That's a strong carry up to the Melrose 10 metre line. All action start to this game. 8 minutes in, Melrose 0, Watsonians 7, and Clark again, the young centre. He looks to be varying up his game so far this afternoon. It was his beautiful offload in the run up to the try, and he's another couple of nice touches as well. That didn't quite go to plan, so it's back with the more muscular figure of Cole Lamberton, and now it's been put into the air up and under by Doom Coetzer, back in the side today after his sub appearance last week in the defeat to Curry. Now a wee bit of space, has he seen it, has opened up for Finn Douglas. He looks full of running so far, the Melrose fullback, moved from the wing to fullback this afternoon. Goldsborough again, Goldsborough with a missed pass out to Campbell, the number 8 lurking with intent over on that far side, still inside their own half here. Melrose look like they're not interested thus far in putting boot to ball. Now Dobie the substitute, and they've got a wee bit of space here on this near side, and Elliot Ruthven had a dummy runner, so decided to truck it, and he's been caught just before halfway. Clark's come over and he goes to Brett. Brett's got a runner, and that's a nice offload to Angus Weir. And Angus Weir presents it well back to Clark, and Watsonians have got through and hassled and harried Clark. That's good defence by the capital men. So Ben White plays prop. This time it's been fumbled, but it's gone backwards, says the referee Michael Todd. So breathless passage of play here in these warm conditions, and the space is opened up for Melrose, and now it's Paddy Anderson on that far side, and he's down on. He's sauntered past a couple of weak challenges. Paddy Anderson, he's going to dot it down. Melrose right back in this, and for all the good work, the Watsonians' good work in defence, Ian, that was poor at the end.
Yeah, I mean, there was really not an awful lot on there. There was men up. There was a good defensive line there from Watsonians. Anderson's just tried his luck, and he's just pushed the Watsonians defender. I think it would be Harry Fisher across there. He's just pushed him out of the way, and the other defender had absolutely no chance. Melrose kept the ball a bit better that time. It is still a little bit harum-scarum from both teams. There's sort of silly offloads going in that maybe they're not necessary. But so far we've got potentially 14 points. Coming in the first 10 minutes of the game, 12 minutes of the game, and it's really cracking stuff.
It has been a brilliant start to this game as we await this conversion from Rowley Brett. And through the posts it goes. So we are all square here at the Green Yards. 10 minutes gone. Melrose 7, Watsonians 7.
Some early scores round the grounds as well. GHA against Ayr, and as expected, Ayr really starting off tremendously well. A couple of tries, both converted. Jamie McCautry and Robbie Orr getting on the score sheet. 14-0 at Braidholme. Remember, GHA are defending that unbeaten home record, which goes back about 16 matches. Melrose 7, Watsonians 7. Paddy Anderson try following up. Adam McKenzie went in for Watsonians early on, so all square at the Green Yards. Into National 1, Stirling 5, Musselburgh 0. In National 2, it's Berwick 0, Newton Stewart 7. Remember, Berwick right at the bottom of the table, still no wins and no try or losing bonus points this season so far as well. In a bit of trouble at home at Scremerston. Falkirk 0, GHK 14. Fraser Stanier and Gavin McCurdy getting on the score sheet, both converted there. That game being played at Sunnyside. Highland 5, Peebles 0 is a latest score also in National 2 as we head back to the Green Yards.
Thank you, Stuart. The Watsonians restart flew out on the full. It didn't go out by much, but they all count as well. Left actually by Connor Spence. He thought about playing it, then thought better of it, so they come back for a scrum halfway. Decent attacking position this for Melrose, who've clawed their way back into the contest. It's Melrose 7, Watsonians 7. Smart try there by Paddy Anderson on the wing here today, and they're going to try and run one from around halfway, and that he's bumped off the first man. Has the powerful Declan Mulcahy. He's won the contact there, and speaking of winning the contact, the burly figure of Dylan Coburn. He's a Glasgow Academy professional. Jack Dobie. Now Dobie had the opportunity to offload, and he's offloaded there to Ruthven. Ruthven's lurking with intent, and he's given it to his winger there, Connor Spence, and he's come back in field. Connor Spence into heavy traffic, and they're up into the 22 here. Melrose smart play, and Dobie again. Dobie's double tackled there by a couple of Watsonians players, and here comes the other Australian in the Melrose ranks, the recent recruit Adam Arkley. He's of a rugby league background, so he runs straight as he did on that occasion. Goldsborough, another from Sydney, just on the 22. That's a good counter ruck by Watsonians, however, and they've pinched the ball. That's brilliant defence. So strong in defence last week in the away loss at Curry. Melrose, though, have got players in over that, but no, it's going to come back on the Watsonian side. So just outside their 22-year Watsonians, having snaffled Melrose possession, going to keep it in hand here. No thought thus far of sending it to touch, where you feel they may have an advantage now given the early loss of Melrose only regular hooker Logan Kirk, and they're going to run on. The space is opened up again for Clark, and again he's offloaded, and that's a powerful carry there by Stu Allison. It looks like Stu Allison's on. We'll get confirmation of that. Loman McPherson now, the wingers came back in field. He slipped Logan McPherson. He's hit pretty hard, but legally in the act of slipping. Again, decent counter drive by Melrose there, but again comes back to Lindsay, and Lindsay goes out the back to McLean, and there's a wee wrap around here, and they've got numbers on the far side. Not making again too much headway here, and that's been flung back with gay abandon. It's been picked up by a Melrose player, but it's been knocked on in there, and yeah, it looks like Campbell Wilson's gone off here, I think.
Yeah, it was a contact situation not long after the injury to Logan Kirk. Angus Runciman went in with the ball, and the first clearing player, it was just a stinger, I think, that Campbell Wilson got. But yeah, it's very harem scarum stuff. I think Watsonians are just throwing just one or two too many offloads at the moment. They're making half breaks, but then they're just trying to force things. I think if they can just sort of settle down a little bit, once they get that half break, if there's nothing on, go again. But entertaining stuff. It's certainly end to end, and it's breathless.
Oh, it sure is. And do you think there's a temptation on a day like this? Just to reiterate, the conditions are absolutely glorious. I mean, summer rugby here at the Greenyards. Is there the temptation because of the weather to not play the percentages and almost play a bit of sevens? Yeah,
I think it certainly looks like that. And Melrose have been a little bit more pragmatic in terms of going into contact when needed. But Watsonians, as I say, they've had that half tackle, and they've tried to offload, and players are not quite ready for it. So it's okay if everybody's on this playing, singing for the same hymn sheet, but at the moment they're not. Obviously Campbell Wilson gone off, but Stu Allison made a really good break there, and made a good few yards, and then he just looked to say, right, let's keep the momentum going, but we don't have to throw the silly offload. It's given Melrose a good attacking platform in midfield, and again, we're looking at the two centres who are going to be quite influential today from Melrose.
Yeah, they are. We've seen them before this season in tandem. The Aussies, Mulcahy and Goldsborough, both came over start of last season from Souths in Sydney, played in the Shoot Shield competition. Now the reason that we've had to await this set scrum is a slight knock to the 10, Melrose 10, Rolly Brett, but he's got the scrum cap back on and he's back in harness. So as Ian says, scrum on halfway. Melrose 7, Watsonians 7. Beautiful day here at the Greenyards. Scott Clark feeds in. It's another rock solid scrum there. Melrose just starting to get a wee bit of a shunt on perhaps, and Michael Todd's going to blow that up, and we're going to have it reset. No lineouts as yet, Ian, with we've not had a chance yet to see who's going to throw in for Melrose, given that Logan Kirk left the field after a minute or so.
Yeah, I think you made a very valid point a couple of minutes ago, Robin, is that Watsonians, it's like test them, see what they can do. Even if it's just one line out, and if whoever's throwing it in hits his jumper, then that's the situation. But at the moment, there's that debate as to how good he's going to be. I mean, I think we saw last week at Curry when Curry lost their hooker, and Chris Anderson went off. Cardosi was thrown in. It wasn't ideal, and it's a massive part of the game, especially nowadays with the rulings around throwing the ball squint.
That's right. So the scrum's been reset, and here it comes again. Take 2, Scott Clark. Melrose 7, Watsonians 7. 16, 17 minutes gone here at the Greenyards. That's a miss pass by Brett to Goldsborough, and Goldsborough had Finn Douglas on the wraparound. It's been spilled by Douglas and picked up by Ronan Kern. He's hacked it forward, and Loman McPherson's interested in this, but Finn Douglas has got back and dropped on it just outside his own 22. So Melrose going to have to go from 30 metres back from where they were previously. That's a big shot on the skipper, Angus Runciman, the new South captain, by Louis Ball, one of the enforcers in the ranks, and a penalty's been awarded against Watsonians. I make that their first concession this afternoon, so that'll give Melrose a chance to clear their lines. And is it maybe, so are you suggesting, Ian, it's possibly been a wee bit, well, that's a shanked kick by Scott Clark. It's not made the most of the territory, but they will get the line out, so we're going to get to see it here first hand, Ian, right in front of our vantage point, this Melrose throw in.
Again, just another little example of Watsonians giving away reasonably good possession. The Melrose attack broke down, Ronan Kerr picked it up, and then he ran 5 yards and kicked the ball.
Yeah, Watsonians have won that line out as well, so we'll come back to that in just a second. Loman McPherson goes to Ball. He's been double tackled there. They're trying to hold him up. He's managed to get to ground. Dylan Coburn's in there for Melrose, but they've managed to make enough of a mess of it that they will get the scrum back on halfway, almost exactly where we were a couple of minutes ago. And is there maybe a wee bit of naivety in Watsonians' play since Logan Kirk went off, Ian? Would you have been sending it to the touchline at every opportunity?
Well, I think I would have tested them, and I think that's just proved there that the throw-in, it was won by Watsonians. But again, I think naivety in terms of Watsonians' play so far, and it may be just as you said, the nice sunny day stuff. Their forwards are excellent, but they're just throwing ball about, and not necessarily using those offloads as they should be. So, I think Davy Wilson will be looking for a little bit more control. It's great to see them try and play things, but that little bit of control every now and again, because you're not going to run through this Melrose defence time after time.
No Chris Bell in the ranks at 10 today. The more attack-minded Andy McLean's been moved forward from full-back. Absolutely outstanding Andy McLean when we've seen Watsonians win at Selkirk early in the season, but he is a running 10 as opposed to a controlling 10. Chris Bell a wee bit more pragmatic. The scrum is going to have to reset again. Michael Todd, centre field this, so again another decent opportunity on a day like this and on a surface like this for Melrose to try and launch something here. Scott Clark having a chat with Rue Campbell at the back, so will we see him break? There's Quaggavan Niekirk, the flanker on this side of the Watsonian scrum. Substitute Stu Allison on the other side, Quaggavan Niekirk, but they're going to go straight to 10, and there's a kick, and it's a 50-22 potential, but it's been well gathered there. It was 10, Rolly Brett, who tried to play. He didn't get his angles quite right, and that'll enable Dom Coates to come across and mark it. Good play by the fullback, so he's going to send it to the touchline. Coates, now is that going to go to touch? No, it's not, so we're not going to see the auxiliary Melrose hooker in action. They're going to try and run it back here through Connor Spence. Connor Spence had a think about going wide, but then comes back into Quaggavan Niekirk. Not necessarily what you want to be doing, but decent collision there by the winger. And speaking of collisions, Adam Arkley runs headlong into a Watsonians player, and they're going to come back with the ball here, Melrose. And it's Mulcahy. He's beat the first man, Mulcahy, and he's injured the first man in the process as well. And Watsonians player's taking a dull one there, so we'll keep an eye on that. Effectively playing with 14 at the moment as Angus Weir takes it into the contact just inside the Watsonians half now, and it's Goldsborough, and Goldsborough sees a wee bit of space and is tackled eventually. Beat the first man, Clark, to the onrushing White, and that's a good palm off from White to Elliot Ruthven. Over the gain line, Ruthven back to Mulcahy now, and Mulcahy again straightens and goes, but it's a good double tackle on the Aussie. Clark to Brett to Rue Campbell, again playing almost like a winger on that far side at the moment, where he spent much of the first 21 minutes of this game. A hugely accomplished ball player. Now it's to the try scorer. They're inching into the 22 here, Melrose. It's the try scorer, Paddy Anderson, and again Clark. This time it's the heavy artillery to take into the contact. Now they're going to go out to Brett. Brett's got runners here, but he goes out the back to Mulcahy, and Mulcahy's got Goldsborough, but that's a loose pass, and this firm surface has seen it bounce and bounce again, and Connor Spence has had to retreat and go down their back to almost the 10 metre line, and that's it. Came back on the base, so scrum half duties are performed by Ruthven, and Jack Dobie heads up. He's been busy since he came on. Ruthven again plays 9. White backs and forwards working in unison here, and again here comes, and that's a lovely wrap around to Rue Campbell, and Rue Campbell goes back inside to Paddy Anderson, and Anderson comes back inside to Finn Douglas. They're back into the Watsonians 22. Good cohesive play here by Melrose. Arkley, double tackle again on the big Aussie. Clark again, but it's been knocked on, fumbled ever so slightly there by Arkley, but impressive play there by Melrose, and I think the coaching staff, Scott White et al, will be pretty happy with how they've fought their way back into this game.
Yeah, I mean, what they've done is they've gone from side to side, but they've gone from side to side with purpose. So, it's not just been a case of fling it from right across the back line and just have nothing there, but they've created overlaps. It's a great wrap around there by Rue Campbell, who, as you said, auxiliary winger. I mean, the guy's one of the best sevens players on the circuit. He's got ball skills, he's a really good player, and then you've got the power of Mulcahy, who's just basically hitting up time and time again, and also Connor Spence. He's probably not the quickest winger on the go compared to Anderson on the other side, but what he lacks in pace, he's certainly got in strength. So if it's sort of not so good ball, he can hit up as hard as he can, and the guys are going to be struggling a little bit because it's a warm day. We're not in the middle of summer, I appreciate that, but there's been very little in the way of stoppages. There's very few line outs, there's been a few scrums, but it's been pretty much constant play since the first whistle. Yeah, I was going to say that, Ian. I've noticed a couple of stoppages, because we've not had many stoppages, but a couple of stoppages. I've seen a few players, particularly forwards, with the hands on hips, and Melrose has spoken this season about looking to increase the amount of time that the ball is in play. They feel that will suit them, and that's certainly been the case here today. Yeah, and it's great to see, and I think this is where you've got a 22-man squad now, so I think it's important that all 22 are used. So I think some of the, as you say, the heavy artillery, it's going to need to be swapped over. So 20-30 minutes at a time, give themselves a breather and then go back again. When you're looking at the benches, you're bringing off obviously Jack Dobie's already had to come on, but Zen Zwajak, Furness, Ferry, Derek, they're all big ball carriers, so you can interchange these guys. Same with Watsonians, some of the players, Blythe Lafferty, Cam Murphy, these are big lads that are going to come on and certainly help keep the pace up. I mean, both sets of backs will run all day, but it's the forwards that do the heavy lifting and the hard carrying.
So just a slight injury break there with Scott Clark. Melrose won't want to lose another in a specialist position after, just as a reminder, Logan Kirk left the field after a minute or so, the regular hooker, and they did not have a hooker or an out hooker replacement on the bench, but Scott Clark looks to be back to his feet and able to continue. So Watsonian scrum as a result of Arkley's knock on. Good Melrose pressure has taken them to the Watsonians 22. Mackenzie feeds it. Melrose trying to get a shunt on, but that's a solid heave from Watsonians there. So it's going to come to the 12, and there's a nice little dummy again by Harry Clark. He's in a prominent start to this game. Melrose had a jackler over there, but it's come back on the Watsonian side, and Coutser again goes to Loman McPherson. We know all about his try scoring abilities, but he's policed pretty well on that occasion by Connor Spence. Another attribute that Spence brings to the party. Ball takes it in. There's a Melrose player over there, but he's managed to wriggle free. No danger of a penalty. Made 10 metres or so here, and they're going to go for the box kick here, and it's Mackenzie, and that's going to be contestable, and Loman McPherson's thinking about it, but it's taken in well by Spence, and he's hit by, he's lost it, Connor Spence, and it's taken in by Jackman, and Jackman's offloaded it to Lindsay, and Lindsay takes it to deck. So Watsonians now in. Melrose real straight Vos. They've got numbers here. Harry Clark, good distribution again by the youngster to centre partner Ronan Kerr, and Ronan Kerr straightens up, and it takes a few, still going Ronan Kerr, pumping the legs, and he's got a big burly forward for Company driving forward there. I think that was Ball, and here comes Vos again, and Vos up towards the 22, making headway here, and again Lindsay, that's a good shot on Lindsay though by Elliot Ruthven. Mackenzie to Vos again he carries it in, the double tackle on him by Rue Campbell, and the skipper Angus runs him in, but they're still in possession. It's only just outside the 22, and now they are awarded a penalty. Now it is kickable, it's 15 metres in from the stand side here. Another player's Watsonians player this time has dropped to his knees. That looks like Cole Lambert, and I think now this is kickable, Ian, but there's also the option to put this into the corner. Now Coutser I thought was interested in going quickly there, but it looks like he's going to stick it as far towards Yieldens as he can while keeping it on the field of play, and he's made a pretty good fist of that. It's going to be a line out to Watsonians 6 or 7 metres from the line, but we'll have to check and see the injury to this player. That looks, is that Lamberton that's taking a shot again? Maybe another stinger by the looks of it. But yeah, Watsonians, Melrose have come right back into it. We're 27 minutes in. It's 7 points apiece, and they've weathered a wee bit of a storm, Watsonians, but they do look dangerous when they get possession. I've been particularly impressed so far with young Harry Clark again. Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the first times we've seen Watsonians keep a hold of the ball for 2 or 3 phases, and they did have space out wide, and Kerr had an opportunity to launch a pass over the top, which probably was a reasonably good potential. It was going to put Harry Fisher certainly one-on-one with his opposite number, Paddy Anderson. He chose to come back inside, which I thought initially was a poor choice, but he made about 20 metres, and that just created that extra movement for them. So the line out just about to be taken here by Watsonians, and it's gone towards the tail, and it's gone off the tail to Jackman, and Jackman's up towards the line. Jackman's over the line, right off the top. Everybody in the ground, me included, thought they would rumble that, Ian, but it was beautifully taken off the top by the skipper Van Niekerk. He fed the rampaging Harry Jackman, and he was only too happy to power over from 3 or 4 metres. Yeah, great move there by Watsonians. They've used the back of the line out. The fact is that until that ball's thrown off the top of the Melrose backs have got to stay back, and they're only 6-7 metres away from the line. So Jackman's taken that ball about 7 metres away from the line, going at a fair pace, and he's going at a standoff. He's going at maybe a scrum half. It's a great move, and it's clever thinking in that, as you say, we were expecting maybe a ball to 2 or ball to 4, and then a drive off that, and they've caught Melrose out. So could Melrose potentially have put
a 6 or a 7 in the scrum half position and have them drift and be able to take Jackman off the back of that. But no, really well worked by Watsonians and something a little bit different.
Certainly was, right off the training ground. It's Harry Clark, conversion attempt. Through it goes from the youngster. The try is converted here at the Greenyards after 29 minutes. It's Melrose 7, Watsonians 14.
Plenty of scores to tell you about around the country. Don't forget, of course, last night Hawick beat Curry 38 points to 26 under the lights at Mansfield Park. Bottom beating top there. GHA 5, Ayr 28. So Ayr have the bonus point in the bag. Tries from Jamie McCautry, Robbie Orr, Jamie Shedden. Rory Campbell has got one back for GHA. It was Brent Jackson who scored the other Ayr try. So 5-28 the score at Braidholme. Kelso 6, couple of Dwayne Patterson penalties, but Heriots 7, so that is 7 points to 6 there. Noah Sakapadji for Heriots. Melrose 7, Watsonians 14, as we've just heard. Selkirk 12, Glasgow Hawks 0. Ben Pickles and Callum Anderson getting tries, one of them converted. International 1, it's Edinburgh Accies 14, Jed Forest 0, Gala 0, Biggar 7, and that's Rory Watson scoring for Biggar early on there. Glasgow Accies 14, Mar 7 in the game of the day in National 1. Mar unbeaten at the top of the table. Try bonuses every time they've played, but they're behind at the moment. Glasgow Accies desperate to get that win to put them in the hunt for promotion out of National 1. Stirling County also in that bag, 17 points to 7 against Musselburgh. A couple of Archie Rankin tries and Mikey Heron one. He's just gone over. Ollie Craig getting one back earlier for Musselburgh. In National 2, Berwick 0, Newton Stewart 7, Falkirk 0, GHK 19 now. James Tweedy, the latest try scorer. And Highland 5, Peebles 14. Stevie Hamilton getting a try. And every time you think Peebles are up against it, they pull out the goods. So 14-5 to Peebles at Canal Park at the moment. I wonder if that will be silencing the crowd at Highland. Let's go back to the Greenyards.
And you join us after Watsonians made a wee bit of a mess of the kick-off receipt. Melrose had an attacking scrum on the 22, but they themselves knocked it on. But Finn Douglas on the charge, with Watsonians having cleared their lines up into the Melrose half, but Douglas is taking it back into Watsonians territory, and here comes Mulcahy, and Mulcahy goes to Goldsborough, the Aussie combination we've seen in harness so often this season. So Melrose back where they started a few minutes ago, and it's Arkley this time with the carry, and Van Niekerk's trying to rip that from him, but he's managed to get it to ground. The big Antipodean, and here come Melrose again, and it's Ruthven. He's been busy so far, full of running, full of work, playing with 7 on his jersey this afternoon. Melrose struggling to get this back, and they'll need to be mindful of that, but they've managed to get a driver, but no, it's come back on the Watsonian side, and Lamberton takes it to deck, and it almost opened up. A wee bit of space opened up round the side of that ruck for Quagga Van Niekerk. He spotted it, but he's fumbled it, and that's going to give Melrose another attacking scrum. You could see what Van Niekerk was trying to do there, Ian, but just the hands letting him down on that occasion.
Yeah, just unfortunate, because he'd done a really good job of slowing down the ball. I think it was Coburn had it, and he tried to strip it off of him, and then his teammate didn't catch a number as to who it was. He stripped from the next Melrose carrying player, so they did a really good job to turn ball over in the 22, and it's, he's done the right thing. He's looking at one hit up and then set a decent ruck, and then they can clear to touch after that. Unfortunately, it maybe wasn't the greatest of passes, and it's just slipped out his grasp, and it's given Melrose a really good attacking platform here just inside the Watsonians 22 at the scoreboard end, and you'd sort of looking at, I think possibly a 10-12 here. Mulcahy will hit up, and then they'll try and go from second phase.
Yeah, there's every chance of that happening. I would suggest it'll be Scott Clark. Now, Scott Clark's not quite as attack minded as Doug Crawford in this particular situation. 33 minutes gone here at the Greenyards. Melrose 7, Watsonians 14. Scrum finally is going to come together. It's been a good contest in the scrum so far, neither side particularly having the upper hand. Melrose, it's at the feet now of Rue Campbell, and it's Clark, and they've not gone, they've got the other Aussie. They did try and hit it up in the middle, and that's a shanked clearance. It was fumbled forward by Corey Goldsborough, who was coming at 100 miles an hour. It bounced off his barrel chest and went forward by about 10 metres, and Watsonians hoofed it to touch, but the kick admittedly was shanked, so no advantage coming, so say Michael Todd. So they're going to come back for a Watsonian scrum, almost in the shadow of their own post, or maybe equidistant between the try line and the Melrose, or their own 22 rather, centre field. These scrums just taking a wee bit longer than the patrons here would like, but this one's going to come together. Now will Watsonians try and clear their lines here? They've been full of running so far this afternoon. Andy McLean, as mentions, more of an attacking 10 than a kicking 10, but let's not forget that Melrose no longer have a hooker on the field, or a regular, what he classes a regular hooker, after Logan Kirk left with barely a minute on the clock, and that scrum's gone down, so they're going to come back and reset it as we inch towards half time. Good to see a reasonable crowd here at the Green Yards this afternoon, making the most of the sunshine. A few over on the far side, a few up the top end as well, beers in hand.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's beautiful sunshine, you've got a game of rugby on, and both teams are trying to play and make it entertaining, so yeah, why not?
And isn't it a real result? It's not a welfare break this weekend.
Yeah. It's probably one of these times of the welfare breaks. You'll have them when it's pouring rain, and the beautiful Sundays or Saturdays that we play will be weeks where they have got those welfare breaks. But no, it's great to see people out and about. There's obviously some that have paid for their tickets and some paid to come in, but as always there's a few standing watching from the outside the ground, and that's fair enough to them.
There is indeed, always the case here at Melrose. Of course, one of the most picturesque grounds in the country, many would say, with a yielding backdrop accompanying it, as finally these front rows come together, and hopefully we'll have a competitive scrum here. It'll be the try scorer Adam McKenzie to feed. He scored with little more than a minute on the clock, and he's gone to Clark. It's come to Clark again, and Clark's not the biggest figure, but he tends to make headway, and he's got the silky hands as well. And Loman McPherson dicing with touch, and he goes back inside to his 9. Adam McKenzie, this is somebody else's, he's at the bottom of that McKenzie, so Andy McLean plays scrum half, and Louis Ball only knows one way. Vos there for company, still in and around the 22 here, Watsonians, so it's going to be boot to ball time for Adam McKenzie, and that's a decent nudge. It's going to drop on Connor Spence, and Connor Spence takes it right in front of us and goes to Finn Douglas. Douglas out to Brett, to Paddy Anderson, and over on that far side is Mulcahy. Mulcahy comes back in against the grain, goes to ground, wasn't held though, so gets another nibble at it and has a roll as well for good measure. Now it comes again to Dobie, ever a willing worker. Jack Dobie's played an awful lot of rugby so far this season, and he's got a few tries to boot as well, a couple from 6, which doubled his tally from last season, just the one. Finn Douglas again, and he always seems to make space for himself, Finn Douglas, and again he beats the first and second man with footwork and sets up a platform inside the Watsonians half. And Brett again, that's a lovely offload from Angus Runciman again to Dobie, and Dobie does the same to Mulcahy, and that's beautiful hands from Melrose, and Watsonians have managed to get a player in there because there was a try on there for Melrose, and Melrose again have snaffled the ball, but a penalty has been awarded, and scramble defence, and it needed to be, because Melrose for all money were in there.
Yeah, just it's that last pass there, or the second last pass to Jeremy to Rolly Brett. Sorry, it just didn't quite go to hand. It was just slightly behind him. With a little bit of depth that he could have held there, unfortunately. But that was some really good attacking play by Melrose. They used a bit of power with the forwards going up, and then as you said, Finn Douglas. It's easy to see why he's ex-Edinburgh Southern Knights and was in Brive. He's got that little bit of class. He was really in a bit of a hole there, and he's left foot, right foot, and he's gone through a gap, and that just creates front foot ball for Melrose. And then they're really good at bringing their heavy artillery, their big runners on, and then creating space for the likes of Mulcahy and Goldsborough and Anderson. And just one little pass there, if that had gone to hand, they were scoring.
So the penalty's been taken by Watsonians, a decent nudge as well from the 22 down to the opposition 10 metre line, and that's gone right over the tail. That's an overthrow, and it's going to come to Ruthven, who will gratefully gobble it up and take it forward up towards the halfway line, centre field here for Melrose. But another Watsonians penalty for holding on. Melrose just architects of their own downfall a wee bit here at the moment. 38 minutes gone, Melrose 7, Watsonians 14, but they've had plenty of possession, Melrose plenty territory. Watsonians through Coatsir will send this to touchline. Just getting back to Finn Douglas. Ian, he's got a wee bit more. It's a lovely kick right into the corner by Cooter. He's got a wee bit more footwork than his father.
Yeah, definitely.
Very good player nonetheless.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Andy was more sort of route one.
He was,
but
indeed.
he was exceedingly good at what he did. You know, in amongst a very good Jed team, and you know, like himself and Harry Hogg outside him, and a few others that were excellent players. But yeah, great kick there by Coetzer that stuck Watsonians right down the 5 metre line after some superb work by the stocky Stu Allison who got the turnover. You know, he's got himself in there, got himself set, and there was no moving him. Yeah,
he's a very good player, Stu Allison. Had the luxury of bringing him off the bench, and that's not weakened him at all. And that's been fumbled again off the top there. It was Harry Jackman who tried to take it in, so that's been lost, and that'll give Melrose a chance to clear the line. He's going to try and hit it up with the forwards at the moment, and Watsonians player, it was actually Stu Allison who almost snaffled that. Melrose lucky to get that back on that occasion. They've inched forward to 10 metres from their own line, forming a caterpillar here, so Scott Clark looks like he's going to send it, and up in there it goes by Scott Clark. That's going to go nowhere near touch. It's going to be taken in by Fisher, and he's going to go back to the talented Coetzer, and Coetzer is hit hard in midfield there by Mulcahy, but he's managed to set it up. Mackenzie to the hooker, that being Boyd Cooper, and again they've got space on that far side, and again it's Allison up towards the 22. Here come Watsonians again, and it's Lamberton, another ever willing worker, Cole Lamberton, always in double figures from a carrying perspective. And here's another Louis ball, centre field now, just outside the 22. Watsonians just building up a wee bit of head of steam, and a little break on there, and it's turned into a throw break by Andy McLean. That is what he brings to the party out of nowhere. The little 10 scampers in from the 22, and that's a wonderful piece of individual skill here.
Yeah, definitely, and it's not only is the skill, that it's the identification. You know, he's seen that. I think it was Adam Arkley and possibly Rue Campbell that were there. So you've got that scenario where Arkley's looking to see where Campbell is. Campbell's trying to protect his player on the inside, and again just that little bit of dog leg. You know, Campbell's come out a bit quicker, it's left that dog leg, and McLean's seen it, and he's just scampered through it, and there's no stopping him from that distance to give Watsonians a really decent lead just on half time. Again, just that little bit of extra at every breakdown. You know, there's 2 or 3 Watsonians guys in there to clear, and doing a really good job of that.
Just winning just seem to be a wee bit more direct at the moment. Watsonians in the collisions as well. As we await this conversion, he's 2 from 2 so far. Harry Clark looking to convert this third Watsonians try. Wonderful try by Andy McLean. Coach's decision to play him at 10 instead of Bell, very much vindicated at the moment as he takes his time, hoofs it over the posts. Harry Clark takes it to Melrose 7, and all of a sudden Watsonians on 21, 41 or so minutes gone by my clock, so the dying embers of this first half. Melrose need to find something. Watsonians almost within bonus point territory as well. 3 tries, first of which for Adam Mackenzie early in the piece. Harry Jackman with the second, and Andy McLean just shy of the interval. So kick-off has been taken. Watsonians have taken it in just outside the 22, and it's one of those try scorers. Mackenzie, that's a high up and under. It's not went particularly far, so it's going to be contestable. It's been knocked back on the Melrose side. Coburn to Goldsborough. Now, can they conjure something prior to half time? And a bit of space has opened up, and he's gone right through as Mulcahy. Eventually he's tackled by his opposite number, Harry Clark. Good defensive work by the youngster, but here comes Brett, and again Arkley's had a few carries. He's bumped off the first man, bumps off the second man, and up to the 22. That's powerful stuff by the big Australian. Melrose now in the attacking sense. He's been kicked forward by Brett, and after this is Finn Douglas, but dabbed down over the try line by a Watsonians player. So it's going to be a Watsonians dropout from their own try line. Melrose trying to claw their way back into this one. 14 points adrift as we approach half time. Probably had more of the possession and territory, but not been able to do quite as much with it. Not quite as much of a cutting edge as Watsonians have had. A bit of a Sclav dropout, but it's gone far enough, and it's come to Mulcahy now. Mulcahy won't shirk the duties here, and he's again won the collision. Mulcahy, that's strong work by the inside centre, Scott Clark, to Weir. Weir deploys the footwork and beats the first man. He's made 3 or 4 metres there, Weir, but Watsonians have won the ball back now here, and it comes to Coetzer. Not his best clearance, that one, but it's still going to drift into touch just shy of the Watsonians 10 metre line, so that will give Melrose a throw in. Melrose, again, as a reminder, do not have a regular hooker on the field of play. So Elliot Ruthven's coming over to throw this one in as we wait the Melrose forwards coming to the line out. Has there been a knockers? Melrose are trundling forward now. And it's going to be Ruthven, the flanker. And that's gone, that's off the top. That's a good ball, that's a good throw in by Ruthven. So here comes Mulcahy again on the wrap around is Brett to the try scorer Anderson, to Goldsborough hit hard there by Harry Clark. First half he's had young Clark, Brett, they've got numbers on that far side, Melrose, but Angus Runciman does the smart thing and takes in a couple of Watsonians defenders. Mulcahy again, he's been busy so far in the first half. Mulcahy in vain as it stands at the moment. Melrose 7, Watsonians 21 as we inch towards half time. White out the back door. Oh, good defence on the huge figure of Dylan Coburn. He's put on the beef since he became an academy pro at Glasgow, but that's good defence on the big ex-Southern Knight, Rue Campbell. Rue Campbell skipped out the first man. He's lost a boot in the process, Rue Campbell. And they're back on their own, or they're back on the Watsonians 10 metre line. Now Melrose, so Ben White takes it in again, wins the contact. White trying to girdle it there, Watsonians, but it's came back on the Melrose side, and again it comes out the back door to Brett, and it's been fumbled by Mulcahy. That's his first error of the afternoon, and right on cue, Michael Todd blows for half time. Ian, I think that's possibly the most breathless first half I've seen this season.
It's been superb. I mean, yeah, there's been some mistakes. It could have been, it's 21-7. It could have been 42-21 just as easily if passes had stuck. Both teams have really endeavoured to try and play some rugby, and it's great to see. For me, the big difference between the two teams is just there's been a couple of little bits of individual brilliance by Watsonians to score tries, and a couple of little clever pieces of defence. That when it was kicked over the line, McLean got back for that one, and unfortunately just Melrose, it's just been the occasions where they've created the holes, they've created the gaps, they've created the chances, they've just knocked on, or there's a player got in front, or the pass has not gone at hand, and that's just the difference. So it's a little bit of accuracy. I don't think there's that much between the two teams despite the 14-point difference in the score.
So the Melrose coaches will need to earn their corn here this afternoon. They've had plenty territory, plenty possession, but only one try, one conversion to show for it. It was a try by Paddy Anderson, converted by Rolly Brett, but that has been countered by 3 tries by the Meyer side men. Adam McKenzie, little more than a minute on the clock, got the first. Harry Jackman after a smart line out with the second. Andy McLean with the individual brilliance for the third. All 3 converted by the super impressive Harry Clark at half time here at the Greenyards. It's Melrose 7, Watsonians 21.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
If you're hearing this, then so could your customers. To advertise on Rugby Radio's 2 Saturday shows and also the Scottish Club Rugby podcast, get in touch via our website at rugbyradio.co.uk. Advertising and sponsorship packages are available for the whole season or on a monthly basis. Help support what we do to promote club rugby in Scotland using our contact page at rugbyradio.co.uk.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
Borders Mortgage Hub.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
So it's half times around the country at the moment. We can go directly to Braidholme now. Sam Matthews is there. It's GHA against Ayr.
Well, the polite way of saying it is it started bad and got worse for the home side. Score currently at half-time, GHA 10, Ayr 35. They lost their starting centre in the warm-up to a strained knee and a concussion. Michael Hughes, meaning Jamie Henderson, came off the bench to start. Luckily, their twos were across the pitch there, so Fergus McCoss got the call up and he moved across to sit on the bench for the home side. Unfortunately, then the try started flowing after a stray kick-off from the home side. Didn't go 10. McGuthrie, the hooker, got the first try of the afternoon. Robbie Orr, Brent Jackson, Jamie Shedden and Blair McPherson all followed him over the line, but either side of that Shedden try and the bonus point, the home side did get 2 tries themselves. Rudy Campbell got both of them, the hooker, from some fast thinking play, quick penalty taps, and result in getting over the try line from line outs. A game that's been all to play for both sides, showing they've got a bit of niggle. A few fights have broken out. It's all kicking off here at Braidholme, but at half time it currently sits GHA 10, Ayr 35.
Kelso against Heriots at Poynter Park. David Ferguson.
Kelso have a big second half coming up if they are to retain their unbeaten home record this season, as Heriots lead here at Poynter Park at half time 21 points to 6. Dwayne Patterson opened the scoring for Kelso with an early penalty and added a second after 26 minutes, but either side of that second one, Heriots showed their attacking ability with well executed tries and added a third on the stroke of half time. Wing Noah Sakapaji claimed the first after a superb kick from standoff Callum Jessup picked him out on the right touchline, and two slick running attacks brought the visitors two more. Fullback Ben Salmon finishing the first and giving the final pass to centre Henry Kesterton for the second. Jessup's three conversions have Heriots in a commanding lead at the break. Kelso have had their moments and good periods of possession, but those tries have shown that they cannot afford to miss chances or tackles if they are to find a way back in the second half. Half time here at Poynter Park, Kelso 6, Heriots 21.
Melrose 7, Watsonians 21, a half-time score. That's our commentary game today. Selkirk 26, Glasgow Hawks 7. Selkirk have the try-bonus in the bag, but they won't be taking Glasgow Hawks for granted. We all know what happened the last time they met a Glasgow side at Philip Hawke. In National 1, half-time, Edinburgh Accies 33, Jed Forest 0. It's Glasgow Accies 14, Mar 7. That's the latest score. Stirling County 34, Musselburgh 7 is a half-time scoreline. And we can go to Netherdale now. Ewan Swinton is there. Gala versus Biggar.
Half-time arrives at Netherdale with a scoreline of Gala 12, Biggar 7. Biggar started off very brightly in the sunshine, and after a sustained period of pressure, Rory Watson crashed over for a try and made a fine conversion from the touchline. As the half wore on, Gala came more into it. The forward battle evened up, and again, after a period of Gala pressure at the other end, Glenn McCrum crashed over for the equalising score. As half-time closed in, a scintillating break by Murray Wilson led to a fine finish by Ben Gill, and Gala went ahead by 12-7. This game is really evenly poised. It could go either way. Two sides both desperate for the win, but Gala ahead in the sunshine as we take our break. Gala 12, Biggar 7.
Also, of course, last night, Premiership match. Hawick, bottom of the table, against Curry, top of the table. It ended 38 points to 26 to Hawick. And we can hear from both parties now, starting with head coach of Hawick, Graham Hogg.
Really, really happy with the 5 points. Absolutely delighted with the performance last night in our home win against Curry. That 5 points is going to be invaluable as the season goes on. And as I say, absolutely delighted with the boys' performance. Not just their performance in terms of on field on Friday night, but also how they've applied themselves and what they've brought to the table in the week. We're always trying to strive for that little bit more. We know at this level you can't just turn up and put a performance in on the weekend. The foundations have to be built during the week, and we've certainly done that. That's probably been done over the last few weeks. I think I alluded to it on the podcast during the week that it's been a frustrating time, obviously coming back and getting that draw against Heriots, then to go into the player welfare break and then have obviously the game cancelled last week against Ayr. Boys have certainly been ready for it, and we put a big emphasis on our performance and our game plan to be able to get that 5 points last night, and the boys executed it really, really well. What laid the foundations, I thought boys up front were absolutely outstanding. We asked for a little bit more defensively, and when we got our opportunities to really carry into Curry, and we knew if we moved the point of contact we would get gains in there, and boys like Fraser Rennick, Mikey Jones, Connor Sutherland and Guillaume Maroldo were outstanding up front to, as I say, lay the foundation to let boys like Andy Mitchell, Zach Lewis, Hector Patterson when he was on the field, to really let them get into their stride. And I think you've seen that with Andy getting a hat-trick and back to a performance that we know we can put in. So yeah, delighted. What we said after the game though was this has to be the level now. There was a marked improvement last night, don't get me wrong, but we need to strive to get to that performance every single week. We need to back it up next week against Watsonians.
And that was Graham Hogg. Let's turn to Curry now and their point of view from Charlie Brett.
You know, the squad were kind of bitterly disappointed that we lost down at Mansfield. We are totally aware of that. It's not an easy place to go. It's and we've always had real kind of ding-dong battles there. overall, they executed their game plan well, and we didn't, and we're going to have a bit of a hard look at ourselves and find out what our issues were. But at the same time, we always bounce back, and we will do from that. And a big week coming up against GHA, so yeah, we'll focus on where we need to work on. But again, we'll bounce back as best we can. On that as well, just a shout out to Rhys Davies reaching 150 caps for the club. Reaching over 100 is massive, but 150 is a crazy thing, and a testament to him as a player and as a person. He's the heartbeat of our squad, and yeah, just upset that we couldn't do it for him.
Marvellous achievement though for Rhys Davies, who of course was our Rugby Radio Man of the Match, sponsored by Oaken Black last week. I wonder who's going to be getting it this week. It's quite an exciting game, isn't it? Melrose against Watsonians. We can return there now. Have a quick word with Ian Hurd, who's been summarising for us today. Who's in the running, Ian?
There's a few, I think, Stuart. I mean, from the Watsonian side, we're obviously leading. Scrum half, and Adam McKenzie, Andy McLean at standoff, and Harry Clark have all been, instrumental in the tries that have been scored, and include scoring themselves. In the forward park, there's two or three that are hitting up and carrying well and setting the platform. To be fair, Stu Allison, who's come off the bench, has done a really good job since he's come off the bench, and he's had a couple of really key turnovers and a couple of little breaks. As far as the Melrose side's concerned, up front, Arkley's had a lot of good carries. Runciman, as always, is in there with the carries and the hard work that's needed to be done. Goldsworth and Mulcahy in the centres, again, they're performing well. They just need to get that little bit of a break so that they can get that second phase of ball. And Finn Douglas, he's not in the game an awful lot, but the times he is, he's been really dynamic. So yeah, there's a few in the frame, and a lot for us to decide second half.
Well, Gala are now leading 17 points to 7. I'm just hearing it's a try for them. So Gala 17, Bigger 7 at Netherdale. In National 2 latest scores, Berwick 0, Newton Stewart 7 at half time. Falkirk 0, GHK 24. But there's been 2 tries in the second half at Sunnyside. Falkirk 5, GHK 29. Highland 10, Peebles 14 is the latest score. And Kirkcaldy 7, Stewmel 21 is a half time. Still waiting on news from Howe Fife against Dundee, and in National 1, Boroughmuir against Gordonians. So back to Ian then for the moment. Obviously, as we mentioned at the start in the preview, Watsonians have lost their last 3. Melrose have lost their last 5. So a lot of nervous moments, but plenty of action.
Yeah, there's been some great actions. We're just about to get underway in the second half. I think Melrose there's been a couple of passes that could have gone to hand that would have led to tries. Watsonians a couple of passes that have gone to hand. So there's not an awful lot in this, and Melrose just need to keep a hold of the ball and maybe get a little bit of luck, and they'll certainly be back into this game quite quickly.
It sounds as if there's a bit of action as the teams come out for the second half, so we'll hand you back to the Greenyards and Ian and Robin.
Wee bit of aerial ping pong to get us started, and that's culminated in a decent punt down the field by Henry Widowson, who's come on for Watsonians. He's in the Edinburgh Academy. It looks like he's gone to fullback, which means that Dom Coetzer has come off. Yeah, Dom Coetzer's come off, but Widowson, Edinburgh Academy player, played for Edinburgh Academy team at Melrose Sevens here earlier in the year. They reached the semi-finals. He's not long out of Merchiston, but it's going to be a Melrose throw into this line out, and it looks like Will Ferry's come on. Now, as I mentioned towards the start of the first half, Ferry was throwing in, or practising his throwing in pre-game, and of course Melrose lost their regular hooker with a minute on the clock, Jack Dobie, and that's a decent throw in, but it's been pinched well by another Edinburgh Academy player, Christian Lindsay. So Watsonians with a chance to attack here, and it's the ever impressive Harry Clark, and Widowson with a little half break. It's a good introduction to the game for him after that meaty touch finder. Andy McLean dances one way then another, beats the first man, and now here come the big forwards, and it looks there's no bigger here on show this afternoon than Ollie Blythe Lafferty, who's on. But Melrose have got a jackler over. That was a big carry by the professional prop. His brother, of course, super impressive last night for Hawick in that famous win at home to modern day rivals Curry. A couple of minutes on the clock here. Just as a reminder, it's Melrose 7, Watsonians 21. Watsonians a wee bit hear him scaring him, so Loman McPherson goes to the other winger, Harry Fisher, who comes back in against the grain, sets it up. Try scorer Adam McKenzie at the base of this. Melrose have got bodies over it. Michael Todd talking them through it. Some of Watsonians staff screaming for a penalty. That's a decent shot on the willing worker Louis Ball by Ben White, another academy player on show here today. And there's a wee bit of space opened up for Andy McLean, and Andy McLean's gone 50-22. But no, I think you're saying it's not Enos taken back in.
Yeah, it was passed from the Melrose half back to McLean. So McLean was in his own half, but it had been passed back to him there. A little bit disappointed at that breakdown. You know, the Melrose player has gone in there. He's made the tackle. He's laying all over the top of the ball, slowed it down. You know, these are the kind of things that in the kind of game we've got today, we want these picked up quite quickly, because it gives Melrose the opportunity to get their players back in the defensive line. But you know, it's been reasonably consistent. There's been a couple of times where Watsonians players have been lying all over the place as well. But yeah, so again, just looking at the Melrose team from this coming out for the second half. So we've got, it looks like Arkley and Ruthven have both come off, and they've been replaced by Ferry and possibly Zwarzak. I think are the two that have come off.
Zwarzak's on there, Ian, you're right. Yeah, and Ferry looks like he's been brought on to throw into the line out. Been a knock to somebody. The running repairs appear to be over, so it's going to be a Melrose line out inside their own 22. It wasn't a 50-22, but it was a great kick nonetheless by Andy McLean, which has bought Watsonians some decent territory here. Melrose 7, Watsonians 21, 4 minutes into the second stanza as we await this Ferry line out forwards. No, the running repairs, I beg your pardon, are not done. They are now, and it's Paddy Anderson who looks to be okay. So Ferry, wee bit of a pressure line out. This can play in the back row, Will Ferry, and the throw in, it's been pressurised, and again it's been won by Watsonians. Will this become a problem for Melrose? And that's good footwork by the young hooker Boyd Cooper. So Watsonians here, they've got 3 tries on the board. Melrose again have made a mess of that, and they've stolen it. Melrose, good play, good defensive effort there by the men in black and yellow. And it was hoofed down the field by Rolly Brett, juggled there by Widdowson, and Widdowson's had his kick charged down, but well mopped up there by McLean, doing the defensive duties. A really strong start to the second half. Andy McLean, as it stands, very much in the running for the Oak and Black man of the match. Kicked downfield by Watsonians, trapped Ronaldo style by Scott Clark. And here comes Harry Fisher. Back inside their own half now. Watsonians have Melrose snaffled that again. They've won the turnover there. Melrose, we'll need to see who that was with a jackal. That was great play, but Paddy Anderson's hit hard by Donald Vos. Looks like it was Ben White that won the turnover for Melrose. Scott Clark now to Zwarzak, the substitute. He's tackled by another substitute, the huge figure that is Ollie Blythe Lafferty. Melrose now in the midfield through Mulcahy. He's taken down just inside the Watsonians 10 metre line centre field, and Rolly Brett tries to dummy and go himself, but he's pretty well policed. So over on the far side now is Connor Spence, and Connor Spence, double tackle on him, but he's managed to get to ground. He's done well there, Spence. So they're still in possession here, Melrose, really looking to get their way back into this game. It's Melrose 7, Watsonians 21, as it was at half time. Brett again to Mulcahy to Goldsborough. Goldsborough's beat the first man, he's beat the second man. That's beautiful footwork by Goldsborough. Now to Rue Campbell, to the Melrose try scorer Paddy Anderson, and he's policed into defence. Good work there by his opposite number, Harry Fisher, but better from Melrose, Ian.
Yeah, there's been some great work at breakdown by Rue Campbell, who made the turnover in his own half, and then again on by Ben White there as well. Unfortunately, they're just Finn Douglas on a really good line to give the 2-on-1, and unfortunately he either didn't call loud enough, or Rue Campbell just didn't see him, because if he just hit that pop pass, it meant that the winger was exposed. They had the 2-on-1, and that was they were scoring. And looks like Rolly Brett's coming off to be replaced by Logan Carl. It also looks like Ollie Furness is coming on as well. Angus Weir, I think, coming off.
Angus Weir coming off, yeah. Rolly Brett is coming off. Scott Clark is coming off. So ringing the changes now, Melrose. That means Doug Crawford is on as we await this Watsonians line out. Sam Derrick's on as well. Rue Campbell's coming to the touchline along with Angus Weir. So Boyd Cooper, and that's a solid throw by Cooper, and it's well taken there by Jackaman in the middle. That's tidy as you like by Watsonians. Now Mackenzie almost charged down there by Ollie Furness, but a good clearance by the scrum half takes play from his own 5 metre line to bang on the Watsonians 10 metre line is where Gordon Galashan has marked it, so it'll be another throw in for Will Ferry. The Watsonians line it have worked him out on his 2 throws thus far. Both of them have been won by the big palm of Christian Lindsay. He's been impressive again this afternoon, the young Edinburgh pro. And that's a better throw in, no, that's a better line out altogether by Melrose. It's came off the top, and that's going to give Mulcahy the chance to run hard and straight and headlong into the Watsonians defence. And here they come again, Melrose. That was a slack pass. It was beautifully taken in by Corey Goldsborough on the dive, but that's stopped all momentum. But they're still in possession. A penalty's been conceded by Watsonians, and this is what Doug Crawford brings to the party. He's off and running. Crawford right up to the 22. Smart play by the diminutive scrum half. Melrose 7, Watsonians 21. Zvarzak not quite so diminutive, but takes it into the contact and set up. Good pass there by Logan Carroll. And now it's Ollie Furness. Ollie Furness, size mismatch there, but he's well tackled by Andy McLean. And here comes Sam Derrick, his first touch of the ball, another ex-Super Series player. And Ben White on the charge, and he's taken down just inside the 22. So better from Melrose here. Logan Carroll to Finn Douglas, to Mulcahy. Mulcahy bounces off the first challenge, pumps the leg, still going. Mulcahy, here they come again, Zvarzak tips it out to Logan Carroll. And Logan Carroll, the Kiwi, recent Kiwi recruit, takes it to ground. Ben White's got Furness for company. A couple of ex-Peebles lads taking it into the contact there, and it's Crawford again. Melrose very much looking to get back into this. You feel that next score could be all important. Still inside the 22, and Crawford again. Crawford's seen a little bit of space, and Crawford's gone through space, back inside to Sam Derrick. Sam Derrick touches it down under the sticks. Ian Hurd. Melrose right back in it. Take a bow, Doug Crawford.
Yeah, and I think this is the point of difference that we were sort of going to talk about before the game, is that Scott Clark brings that little bit more control, which means that they can play through the phases that you would expect to play. Doug Crawford does things that are unexpected. You know, he's had a couple of little breaks there, so it's changed the dynamic a little bit, and means that Watsonians are going to have to try and keep an eye on him. But that's, you know, it's exactly what Melrose are looking for, is quicken up the pace round about ruck and maul. They maybe were a little bit too, easy to read, although unfortunately it looks like Doug Crawford's got a bit of a tweak in the hamstring, but they were a little bit easy to read from the point of view of where they would go in at every contact. Now that Doug Crawford's on, it is that little bit different. So what's he doing? Where's he going? And that's hopefully going to be what's going to take things forward for Melrose. Conversion was made by Logan Carroll, I think.
It was indeed. So Melrose right back in this. It's Melrose 14, Watsonians 21.
Yes, lots happening around the grounds at the moment. Braidholme, it's GHA 10, Ayr 42. Lewis McNamara getting the latest try. Before that, Blair McPherson as well. Ayr running riot at Braidholme at the moment. It's Kelso 6, Herits 33. Tries from Henry Kesterton, Hamish MacArthur and Elliot Young in the last few moments. Herits running away at Poinder Park. As we've just heard, Melrose 14, Watsonians 21. It's Selkirk 29-7 now. Penalties just gone over for Selkirk. So Selkirk 29, Glasgow Hawks 7 at Philip Hawke. And in National 1, Boroughmuir 26, Gordonians 19. A close match there. Edinburghies 54, Jed Forest 5 and Gala 22, Bigger 7 is the latest score at Netherdale, and that's a try bonus point for Gala. Glasgow Accies 33, Mar 7 in the big match at National 1. That's taking place at Anniesland, of course. And another big score down at Bridgehawk. Stirling County 41, Musselburgh 7, latest from National 1. Into National 2 we go. It's Berwick 0, Newton Stewart 7, Falkirk 15, GHK 29. Remember, GHK were 29-0 up. 3 tries from Falkirk now. They're back in it. It's Falkirk 15, GHK 29. Highland Dunfermline 17, Peebles 24 is the latest score from Canal Park in Inverness. Howe 5, 29, Dundee 5, and Kirkcaldy 7, Stewart's Melville 21. It's all happening around the grounds. It's all happening at the Greenyards as well. We return to Robin and Ian.
It is all happening, and it's been knocked forward by Watsonians after Watsonians line out in the Melrose 22. Kick-off was taken. Watsonians very much with a territorial advantage after that kick-off, but they've made an error with possession, and Ian, a blow for Melrose, however, because Doug Crawford's had to leave the field again.
Yeah, as I said, after the try was scored where he popped the ball back into Sam Derrick, it looked like he'd tweaked a hamstring of some kind. Melrose have done really well there. That was a good take by Jackman at the middle of the line out, and they've tried to do something fancy around the front, and the Melrose players got in, got a hold of the ball. Mackenzie a little bit lucky there, maybe not to see a little bit more than just a scrum for a knock on, because he was in no position to win that ball, and he stuck a hand out and it's potentially stopped Melrose going for another 20-30 metres down the pitch.
So the scrum, Watsonians trying to get a shunt on there. Blythe Lafferty in among it, but Sam Derrick's picked up from the back and gone. The old 8-12, Mulcahy. Scott Clark has got a rampaging prop in the form of Ben White as the crowd just start to get their dander up here at the Greenyards. 13 minutes gone, Melrose 14, Watsonians 21. Melrose up towards halfway. Scott Clark back on the field to Furness. Furness tackled strongly there around the fringes. Back with Clark to Derrick. Some shouting for a high shot on Derrick. He's still in possession. He's pinballed his way through a couple of challengers just shy of the halfway line. Clark to Logan Carroll, who's come on, to Finn Douglas, to Connor Spence. Connor Spence, the backs have to flood in and secure that ball, and Mulcahy tries to go around the side of that. There's a sub on, it's Cam Murphy for Watsonians, and that's a good charge by Jack Dobie. That's very much what he brings to the table. Started on the bench this afternoon. Dobie was on the field after a minute or so. Finn Douglas, he's been a strong performer for Melrose so far this afternoon. Now, Watsonians did implode, and they've conceded a penalty here. They almost imploded in the second half last week against Curry, Ian, and you have to say, after a bright opening 2 minutes to this half, they've not been particularly impressive.
Yeah, I mean, Melrose have just upped the pace. They're going a good 2 or 3 yards quicker than they were before half time, and Watsonians are struggling to cope with that, which they've brought on a couple of bigger forwards. Blythe Lafferty's come on, and they are struggling to cope with the pace that Melrose are playing at, and they're throwing bodies into breakdown and trying to slow ball down, and Michael Todd's quite rightly picking them for it, although there's another couple of injuries. I think by the time we get to 80 minutes today, there's going to be some tired and B, very sore bodies, because these guys have put an awful lot into the games so far today, and it's going to continue.
Yeah, Connor Spence looks like he's going to have to hobble off, so Rolly Brett's back on, and Paddy Anderson's okay. Now, Melrose have kicked this to touch. Let's not forget that they don't have a regular hooker on the field, so it's going to be Will Ferry to throw it in. Brother recently signed for Coventry in the English Championship. Or the Champ as it's known nowadays, how they would have loved to have had him out here this afternoon, and again that throw in has gone awry, so the penalty went to touch, but they've lost the line, and that's a good carry by Stu Allison. Impressive, since he came on early in the first half for Watsonians after the unlucky Campbell Wilson had to leave the field. And so Watsonians now looking to exit. Widowson with the kick, takes it into touch, front of the stand here at the Greenyards. I don't think Watsonians will be too despondent now if they have to keep kicking it to the touchline here.
No, I mean, I can't think of a line-out that Melrose have won since they've had to go to their auxiliary throw-in, and they tried Ruthven in the first half, and they've now tried, I think, maybe 1-1, and they've now got Ferry doing it, and it's just putting a huge. It's so difficult to launch any attacks when you're not winning line-out ball.
So Ferry, Melrose just inside the Watsonians 10 metre line, so a decent place, and he's done well that time. But again, it's been a hand. It was won originally by, I think that was Ollie Furness at the front, and again the athletic Christian Lindsay from the Edinburgh Academy playing for Watsonians. He managed to get a hand in, but illegally so it's going to be another Melrose penalty. So Carroll will try and send this as far into 22 as he can towards Yildens. Now he's gone too far and he's made the cardinal error, Ian. That's a sin. He's gone too far and it's gone dead.
Yeah, I think they were slightly lucky to get the penalty anyway, because where the Watsonians player got penalised for crossing over the gap, where he played it from, if the ball had been thrown in straight, he wouldn't be able to get to it. So I think they've got away. Melrose got away with one, and then that's not acceptable, really, is it? You've got to hit touch, even if it's 10 metres out rather than 5 metres out.
Well, that's it. You said it. One of the games we done earlier this season, it doesn't matter if it goes to 1 metre out or 5 metres out the line, or 6. The line is still going to be 5 metres from the try line. But here we go. We're back for a Watsonian scrum, and that's gone to ground. So it'll need to be reset. 17.5 minutes gone here. Melrose back in at 14. Watsonians 21. As we start to think about bonus points, Melrose with a couple of tries. They're within 7. Watsonians on 3 tries. 1 for Mackenzie, 1 for Jackham and 1 for McLean, countered by Melrose, Paddy Anderson, Sam Derrick. Look at Ollie Blythe Lafferty on this side, Ian. We've got a reasonable vantage point here. He is a big old lump of a young man.
Yeah, he certainly is. I mean, it's going to take a bit of shift in that, and that's a cornerstone of the pack. That's what you're looking for, a tight head of that size. And they've just been free kicked for trying to get in there a little bit too quick.
Good distribution again, and Andy McLean's gone through here. There's a 2-on-1 situation, but Fisher's pinned the ears back here for Watsonians. He's going to try and take on Finn Douglas. That looked high by Douglas, and the referee agrees. And here comes a charging Stu Allison. They're deep into the Melrose 22 here, and the penalty is going to come. Yeah. Semi-high shot there, or desperation tackle by Finn Douglas. It was ever so slightly high, but the break there, again, it was the distribution from Clark and the pace injected by Andy McLean.
Yeah, I mean, that's outstanding pace by McLean there. I'm just, it slightly rankles me a little bit there. That tackle has basically stopped Watsonians from scoring a try. I'm not saying it's a penalty try, but again, in the same way that Mackenzie wasn't yellow carded before, I'm sort of querying as to why that wasn't a yellow card, because it's more of a professional foul. But at the end of the day, if they marry each other up and neither get yellow carded, then play on. That's fine.
Yeah, so it's a Watsonians line out. The penalty's been nudged to maybe 8 or 9 metres from the try line. Boyd Cooper, and that's been won cleanly in the middle by Jackaman. So are they going to try and rumble it? We've not seen too much of this afternoon, but McInnes is in there as well, and now it's starting to inch forward here. But no, it's going to come out in the backs. It's going to be a snipe by the scrum half. He scored one already this afternoon. Mackenzie, Melrose have got bodies over that as he goes to ground, and they've slowed it up and they've managed to win it, I think, here. Melrose, that's solid defence again, but once again the chance goes a begging for Watsonians. We've seen it last week and we're starting to see it repeat itself here this afternoon as Scott Clark kicks it to touch. I don't think it's going to be too much territory lost for Watsonians. It's still going to be a line out in the Melrose 22, but again, Ian, the chances are there.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It must be frustrating that from a Watsonians point of view. They've obviously called that move to drive when it hasn't driven. Your scrum half's trying to make a little break there. You're running into traffic. You get it out to your bigger centres and let them truck up, and then you've got the other centre or the fly half into secure ball, and that's what happened. Is they got turned over because he went himself. There was nobody there to secure.
And again, it's the line that's been taken, and it's the Boyd Cooper, Harry Jackaman 1-2, and again they're starting to just get the speed up here. Doesn't want to get too isolated, Cooper, and he's still going here. Watsonians and Quaggavan, Kneekirk's in there now as well, and the penalty's coming as they get to about 3 metres short, and a couple of Melrose players have swam through there, and they're going towards the touchline. They've got a secondary drive on here. Will they get it down? Down they get it indeed, and the try has been awarded. Bonus point try at that. Forwards try. We're going to try and endeavour to see who comes up with the pill here, Ian. It looks like Boyd Cooper to me.
Yeah, I mean, Boyd Cooper had it at the back of the mall when he was about 3-4 metres out when Michael Todd signalled for the advantage. I didn't see anybody else get in there and win the ball. So for me, I think that's definitely for Boyd Cooper.
Yeah, it's a try for the Watsonians forwards, that is for sure. But yeah, I think we'll chalk that down to Boyd Cooper in this season, straight from Strathallan School. And again, Ian, we've seen them early in the season at Selkirk And these young lads, these schoolboys, the Harry Clarks, the Boyd Coopers, you can't tell them any different physically when you see them from here against the, standing next to the Quagga Van Niekerks, etc. They benefit so well, and good on them from the private school system.
Yeah, I think we said this in the podcast a few weeks ago. It's choice as well. I mean, there's an element of you've got to do it at some of these private schools, but there is that. If you're going to do it, you do it right, and that just showed there was just that better organisation from that particular line out, and they got 2 or 3 of the backs in, and then it was just there was nothing stopping it. There was too few Melrose players there and available to do that.
And dead-eye Harry Clark with his most tricky conversion of the afternoon. It's gone to... Yeah, that's been awarded. Just a wee bit of ambiguity there as to whether that has been awarded, but it has indeed been awarded, and it's currently Melrose 14, Watsonians 28.
Let's continue to go round the grounds. GHA 17, Ayr 42 is the latest score. So one more try for GHA. They've got a try bonus. Kelso 6, Heriots 40. Angus Hunter getting the latest try for Heriots as they run riot at Poynter Park. That would be Kelso's first loss of the season at home. Melrose 14, Watsonians 28. Watsonians getting the try bonus in that game. Identical score at the moment to the Melrose Ayr match earlier in the season. Selkirk 42, Glasgow Hawks 21 is the latest score from Philip Hawke. And of course, last night's match, if you haven't heard already, Hawick 38, Curry 26, a win for Hawick at Mansfield Park. In National 1, it's now Boroughmuir 33, Gordonians 19, Enbrackie 61, Jed Forest 5, Gala 22, Bigger 14. Gary Adams getting a try for Bigger after Cameron Bryden went over for the bonus point try for Gala. Glasgow Accies 33, Mar 12 in the big top of the table clash in National 1, and Stirling County 55, Musselburgh 14 is a latest score. International 2, Berwick 0, Newton Stewart 12, Falkirk 20 with a try bonus for them. What a comeback, but GHK have another one. It's 36 for them. James Tweedy getting on the score sheet. Falkirk 20, GHK 36. It's Highland 24, Peebles 24. Peebles were 24-10 up with a Donald Anderson try. Peebles still looking for a try bonus in that one, but a try bonus confirmed for Highland. So Peebles don't have a try bonus, Highland do. Howe 5 34, Dundee 7, and Kirkcaldy 7, Stewart's Melville 21 is the latest that we have. Let's return to the Green Yards.
And you join us at a good time. Ian Hurd has recovered after a coughing fit brought on by a fly in the mouth. But the kickoff was taken after all of that. Bit of Melrose possession. They've managed to take it into Watsonians territory, and a scrum has been awarded. Michael Todd signalling that it's going to be just inside the Watsonians 10 metre line. So Melrose need something, and they need something pretty quickly. There's 25 minutes gone in the second half. It's Watsonians, or Melrose 14, Watsonians 28. Scott Clark, who's back on. He started the game. Scott Clark went off momentarily for Doug Crawford, who'd come on, assisted a try. Watsonians made a change now at 9 as well. Murray Scott's on, but yeah, Scott Clark back on. Doug Crawford, no sooner did he come on, left with a hamstring tweak, and that's a strong Melrose scrum against the likes of Ollie Blythe Lafferty. Oh, but the referee, it's all going to become a bit of a mess, and the referee's going to bring it back, and there's all kinds of shouting coming from the two different sets of coaches as to what the potential problem was with that scrum. Some are screaming it's a penalty. Gordon Galashan having a word with one of the Watsonians coaching staff, and this is not what Melrose need, Ian. They need this scrum to work. They need this ball in and away.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting that the Watsonians coach who was screaming and shouting was Richard Snedden, an ex-scrum half, so what he knows about scrums in the front row, I'm not overly sure. I think there may be an element of white and maroon bias there, but yeah, I mean, we've not had any great problems at scrums today at all, but you know, Blythe Lafferty is a big animal, and is he starting to get a bit of dominance over Ben White, who's obviously been on there for 60, probably best part of 60 minutes.
He's done all right there. White, it's buckled, and it's towards the touchline. It's shot out there, and it's still infield. However, Scott Clark's done well to tidy that. It was flung back in by the substitute, Sam Derrick. Melrose try scorer in this second half, the sole try scorer in this second half. So Melrose somehow managed to work this infield, and it's been taken in there by Dylan Coburn, who's still on. There's a penalty coming, not rolling away. This time it's been awarded to Scott Clark. Bit of a loose pass by Scott Clark. It's went way back, and Goldsborough's hacked it through though, and has seen a wee bit of space here. That wasn't the intention, but a Watsonians player has gobbled it up, so they will come back for the penalty. 13 minutes to go in this one. Melrose 14, Watsonians 28. Watsonians with the bonus point in the bag as well, and as things stand, Melrose could find themselves at the foot of the table come 5 o'clock this evening. And Ian, after the opening day where they seen off Heriots here in convincing fashion, you'd have got long odds on that.
Yeah, obviously I wasn't at the game. I don't know what the situation was, and I know we've heard a lot of stories about Heriots. They weren't as strong a team at that time, but you've still got to beat what's in front of you, and to put as many points as they did on Heriots is a surprise. And I think you talked about it on the podcast last night that although they've lost 5 games or 5 games on the bounce, they're only -4 in terms of points difference, which is an unbelievable statistic when you've lost 5 games against probably some of the better teams in the league. Curry, they possibly should have won. The Selkirk last week, they possibly should have won, but you've still got a chance today if they can get a try quite quickly.
So they've got a scrum, and it's decent attacking position as well, just outside the 22. So on the wrap around is Carroll, bit of pace injected, and that's been palmed forward by a Watsonians player. And the referee, surely the yellow card has got to come. That's as blatant a deliberate knock-on as you're ever likely to see. I mean,
yeah, that's a very, very poor decision. If he's touched that there just now, it doesn't matter whether the fact there's a winger outside him or not. That's a stonewall yellow card. That's an easy one to give, and that's really from a refereeing point of view. There's been a lot of really good points from Michael today. He's kept the game flowing. He's not penalised an awful lot of breakdown. He's encouraged, but that's a poor call. For me, that's as clear and obvious a yellow card as you're going to get.
Oh, it's almost as clear and obvious a yellow card, I think, as I've ever seen, Ian, for any type of indiscretion. But nevertheless, Watsonians remain with 15 on the paddock, and Melrose have sent it to the touchline inside the Watsonians 22. And Ian's right, they need something pretty quickly, and if they do get it, they're not out of this. But their line out has been a wee bit of a mess this afternoon, and here's Ferry about to throw it in, and that's better. It's been taken in by Angus Runciman, so Melrose now with the opportunity to copy what Watsonians did a few minutes ago and try and trundle this forward, and it's moving, and there's somebody at the tiller at the base of this, and Scott Clark's trying to direct traffic as a Watsonians player tries to swim through that, and now it's come out the back, and a wee dummy's been sold there by Brett, but Andy McLean's got over there, but no, they've managed to clear him out there, and here comes Ferry. They're 3 or 4 metres short of the Watsonians line here, Melrose. Ben White, he's got Runciman for company in the shadow of the post here, and it's back now. That's a good tackle. Andy McLean again, he flew up there and scragged Jack Doby round the ankles, and now it's Clark to Svarjak with a carry, and takes a couple of Watsonians defenders to drag him to the deck, one of which was Van Niekerk, and now it's with Ben White. Ben White's carried on numerous occasions this afternoon. They're a metre short here, Melrose. Dylan Coburn, there's a penalty coming, and they're in. The corner try has been awarded. Finn Douglas has scored that one. That's a deserved try for him. He's been the danger man so far this afternoon. You called it, Ian, and Melrose are right back in it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's just some really good possession there. They've just kept a hold of it. They've just driven and driven and driven and driven. Some good carries there, even when the ball was probably thrown at the wrong time. Like Svarjak, the prop. Ben White, they've just taken it up, and they've just held on to things a bit more, and they've created that overlap. And Finn Douglas in that situation there, he's pulling himself wide. They've got 2 big runners inside that the defenders have got to cover, and he's done a really, really good job of covering that. And it looks like,
speaking of really good jobs, not quite a touchline conversion. He was 5 metres in from the touchline on his wrong side, Rolly Brett, and he has split the kindling, as Dale Clancy would say. So Melrose right back in this. Melrose 21, Watsonians 28. Melrose in bonus point territory now, if nothing else. 9 minutes to go in this one. Watsonians ambling forward, no particular rush to take this. I think they've missed Dom Coates a wee bit in this second half, and it's his replacement, Edinburgh pro Henry Widdowson, coming forward to take the kick off, and he's gone really deep with that. Widdowson, is that going to be allowed to bounce in the sun? has played its part there, as predicted by Ian Hurd. It was dropped by Scott Clark, but Michael Todd, the referee, said that has gone backwards, and it's been cleared by Melrose, but Watsonians with a territorial gain, because it's a line out to them just outside the 22, and unlike Melrose, their line out has in the main been a thing of beauty this afternoon, as the totemic figure of Christian Lindsay comes forward, but it's not going to go to him. It's going to go to Jackman, I think it was, and a bit of space is opened up for Stu Allison, and Stu Allison is caught, and he's eventually dragged to the deck, and he's managed to offload it, and here comes Christian Lindsay, who's come round the corner, and they're 5 metres short here. Watsonians looking to put a nail in the Melrose coffin. Murray Scott will dig for this, very much in the ascendancy here. The men from Myerside, they're still 5 metres short, and it's squirted out there, and it's been picked up by a Melrose player. That is extremely loose by Watsonians. That will make their coaches absolutely furious. What an opportunity they had there, as Finn Douglas takes it into the contact, and they'll need to clear the lines here. Melrose, Scott Clark's at the base of it, but they're going to go through the forwards here. They're now 10 metres or so from the line, when it looked for all money that they'd concede the 5th try of the afternoon. Scott Clark dragging it to the back of the Caterpillar, and eventually gets the kick away, and that's gone to the touchline again, and that's good defence by Melrose, Ian, you have to say, but again the chance goes a begging for Watsonians. That was loose.
Yeah, really good defence there by Melrose. They've just hung in there, they've slowed the ball down when they had the opportunity. They got underneath Lindsay when he should have really gone lower, hit the deck, and then, you know, I think if he'd got to deck there and they'd got quick ball, I think you're pretty much scoring in the corner. You've got 2 or 3 players at the very least, and then you're going to have Loman McPherson, who's probably going to go in the corner. But interestingly enough, that's twice or thrice now that Watsonians have had a little bit of success, either off the top of the line out, and then they've run a cut a line back towards the inside shoulder of the 10. So then you've only got that wing, the blindside winger to actually cover. So Paddy Anderson did a great job of tackling an in-flight Stu Allison there, because he was on full tilt, and there's a big gap there, and Watsonians have used that really well.
They have indeed. Watsonian Stu Allison, he's been really impressive since coming on early in the piece. As we wait, there's a Melrose player receiving treatment here. I'm going to try and see who that is. It looks like, is that Dylan Coburn?
Yeah,
the Glasgow
6,
pro. Yeah. Dylan Coburn. He's a big man these days. He's put on the timber as you'd expect in a professional environment. Looks like he's going to be okay. No, it looks like he's come at the touchline, and Elliot Ruthven returns. Pretty impressive in the first half, Elliot Ruthven, before he was hooked at half time. As we await this Watsonians line out, it's over on the far side on the Melrose 10 metre line. They'll look for the likes of Lindsay, who's been and it's curse of the commentator, because Melrose have stolen that off the top. It was the substitute, Sam Derrick. Good work by Derrick. He's been impressive since he came on. So Melrose now with a chance to come out the half of, or their own half rather. That was a huge shot on Rolly Brett, and the referees deemed that to be high, and there's a bit of pushing and shoving needlessly here. That looked a border, Rolly Brett's taken a sore one here. That looked borderline illegal to me, and I don't think there was too much in it, but the penalty's been awarded nonetheless.
Yeah, this is something that's worrying me a little bit when it comes into the game. It's difficult to tell from our vantage point, because we are a bit higher up, but there's certainly been higher tackles today that haven't been penalised, and actually that was just a hospital pass that was given to Rolly Brett.
Yeah.
And I think it was Wooderson or McPherson, I'm not sure exactly who it was, but they were just there, and maybe it was slightly high, but I'm not overly sure it wasn't just a hard physical tackle, but they're Michael Todd's closer than I am, so he's. And the other thing is, it looks like it could be on the blind side to where we are, but we are slightly getting away from the stage of hard physical tackles are getting penalised when they're borderline high, I think, as you say.
So the Melrose penalty's been kicked to touch, where they've not had that much joy this afternoon. 4 or so minutes to go. Melrose 21, Watsonians 28. It'll be Will Ferry, through no fault of his own, I have to say. He's not a regular hooker. He's done his level best, and it has improved as the second half has worn on. So Ferry Bit of movement in the line out, and that's a wee bit of an overthrow, and it's been gobbled up by Jerry, beg your pardon, his brother, Ollie Blythe Lafferty. So Watsonians, the beneficiaries of another loose Melrose line out. Cam Murphy on the Watsonians 10 metre line, distribution there. And speaking of distribution, here comes Harry Clark, and that is arch distribution. That is Finn Russell-esque by the young inside centre. The kick pass was a thing of beauty. Murray Scott has got forwards on rushing. That's a big collision in there. It was a brave tackle by Sam Derrick, and he found himself on his backside, Sam Derrick, but he's done enough to dislodge the ball. That was Andrew McInnes coming at another 100 miles an hour, and I make there about 3 minutes to go in this one. Ian, the game is still in the balance at 21-28, but I'm going to ask you, the Oak and Black Rugby Radio Man of the Match, who's going to scoop this?
Yeah, I think
wooden trophy.
You know, for me, there's been a couple of players in particular that have impressed me from the Watsonian side. You know, there's been good players on either side. I mean, Harry Clark, I thought in the first half was excellent. He's kicked his 4 conversions, done a really good job of that. In attack, he's been good, and also in defence. You know, for me, I think the guy who's shading it, and I know he was given it at Selkirk, is Andy McLean. You know, he's got his backline running. He's also in 2 or 3 occasions that he's done a little bit of stuff that people don't notice. So, you know, there was a kick through in the first half that he was at there, and he was back and he was covered. There's been a couple of times where he's made tackles that would need to be made, and he's also got in a couple of times and just about turned ball over. So, you know, for me, the man of the match today, for both his performance on both sides of the ball. So the Rugby Radio Man of the Match, sponsored by Oak and Black, would go to Andy McLean, the Watsonians number 10.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I also can't argue with Harry Clark being in the running as well. That 10-12 axis for Watsonians has been uber impressive here this afternoon as we await this Melrose scrum. There'll maybe be 3 or 4 minutes to go, and the game is still there to be won by somebody. Melrose 21, 3 tries to their name. Watsonians with a try bonus point on 28 points. So here come Melrose. They're going to try and run it from their own half, and it's Finn Douglas. He's beat the first man and he's beat the second man as well, Finn Douglas, but the ball's been stolen. That was brilliant work by Lomond McPherson, who managed to slash it out of the grasp, and there's a good bit of interplay there by the Watsonians forwards, but eventually it's been knocked on, and there's an advantage been knocked on by Rolly Brett, so they're going to come back for a scrum almost where they were a couple of minutes ago, but that's eaten up the clock from a Watsonians perspective. But Finn Douglas, he's been a danger man for Melrose, but that was brilliant work in there by the winger, back on the wing this afternoon, Lomond McPherson.
Yeah, he did a great job of stripping that ball there from Finn Douglas, who in the times that he's been on the ball has probably been one of Melrose's best players. But again, that's just that one extra offload too many there. You know, you're winning the game by 7 points. You've turned the ball over. You've made a couple of little half breaks. You've got forward support round about yourself. Let's not, don't throw that extra offload. I know we're trying to keep the game open and so on and so forth, but that scenario there is just tuck the ball under your arm, drive forward a bit, and then get the next 2 guys to clear out, and you go again. And there's wide open prairie on that far side that was open for quick ball to play.
It was indeed, and it looks like the Watsonian substitute, Andrew McInnes, is coming off. He's put in a shift since he came on, and returning to the field is the big figure of Louis Ball. These 3 Watsonian second rows this afternoon, all been impressive. Louis Ball, the substitute McInnes, and the young Edinburgh Pro, 18 years of age out of Loreto, Christian Lindsay, is going to go the full 80. Impressive last week at Curry, impressive here this afternoon in what at the moment is a winning Watsonians cause, but Melrose still with an opportunity. They've got the scrum. Clark just on halfway to Carl, to Finn Douglas again. Douglas, this time he evades Harry Fisher and takes it to deck on the Watsonians 10 metre line. Good clear out by Melrose. So here comes Ruthven, and and there's a break on here by Will Ferry. Now Will Ferry's got one to beat, tries to offload it, it was never on. It's gone backwards by Watsonians, and Melrose have won the ball back here. Melrose striving for a draw, but it's been won by Watsonians, but illegally so a penalty right in front. What are they going to do here? They certainly won't kick for the post. Will Ferry thinks about taking it quickly. I think the skipper, Angus Runsom, is off the field, so they're going to tap and go here, Melrose. And they're going to go Elliot Ruthven. Elliot Ruthven takes another metre or 2. Watsonians trying to snaffle that, but Melrose still in possession. That's a big shot there by Louis Ball on Ferry, and he's back on his feet. Ball, that was good defensive work Watsonians got their work cut out here. Melrose looking for the draw, and here comes Ben White calling for a high tackle but nothing doing. Clark to Rolly Brett, they've got numbers on the far side and there's a bit of space open, and it's been fumbled and knocked on, and Michael Clark's arm is out. And Ian, is that the game?
It's certainly going to be close to the game. You know, it was just a little bit rushed there. You know, they had the upper hand in the forwards. I could see why they were trying to do what they're going to do, and just unfortunate that pass from, I think it was Finn Douglas out to was it Mulcahy? It was fired instead of a really sympathetic pass. You know, if that had just been a nice pop pass, he's got the gap. You know, the gap was there. Just unfortunate they haven't executed what they would want to execute there. But you know, Melrose have really roared back into this, and again they're going to be close. Are they going to be able to get even a draw out of this, or you know, are they back to that situation where, you know, close but no cigar?
Yeah, Melrose 21, Watsonians 28. There's 43 minutes gone on my clock, so we're in injury time here, or time added on at least, and this scrum is going to be reset, and that will suit Watsonians down to the ground. So just from a position on the field point of view, it's 15 metres in from the far side here at the Green Yards. It's about halfway between the Watsonians try line and the Watsonians 22, so a solid scrum here should see them exit. It's going to be fed by the substitute scrum half, the experienced ex-Super Series operator Murray Scott. Not a bad man to bring off the bench, and again it's going to be reset. Frustrating this for Melrose. There's some players out there, the likes of Ben White's going to do the full 80. The substitute Jack Dobie's going to do at least 80, given when he came onto the field. So just waiting on what might be the last scrum of what has been an intriguing game in glorious conditions here at the Green Yards, as the shadows just start to lengthen a wee bit. Still very little by way of wind and still beautiful sunshine. Melrose trying to get a shunt on. It's been picked up here and they're going to try and hit it up before exiting. It's Harry Fisher in off his wing looking for work. Murray Scott's going to go back to Widowson, and Widowson sent it to the touchline. Now, is there time for the line out? Not the best of clearances by Widowson. In fact, it's not the best of exits that by Watsonians. It's only been kicked to the 22, so Melrose, with their line out at times in disarray this afternoon, they're going to have what might be one last bite at the cherry. It'll be Will Ferry. It was Will Ferry's break, 40 metre break, that took them deep into Watsonians territory, and it'll be Ferry to throw in. He's going to go at the middle here, Ferry, and that's not straight, and it's come back, and yes, Watsonians did contest that, so it's going to be a Watsonian scrum, and that's almost summed up the second half from a Melrose perspective here.
Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of things you could look at as difference between the two teams, but Melrose have been really hamstrung by the fact that they've not had any really good line-out ball, so they've had very little to attack from. You know, to go into a game, unfortunately, with a hooker who goes off after about a minute and a half, and then not have a replacement or somebody who would be your normal throw-in at line-outs, it makes it very difficult when that happens. You know, you're not planning for that. But again, Watsonians, you know, they flattered to deceive a bit at times, but you know, Melrose have defended really well at times as well.
Yeah, it's been a decent game here, decent afternoon's rugby as Murray Scott feeds the scrum, and it's a solid Watsonian scrum right on the 22, their own 22. Scott goes back to McLean dabs it out. That should be the end of matters, and Michael Todd agrees. Watsonians players absolutely delighted. They will leave the Green Yards with a hugely important 5 points. Melrose got back within 7, Ian, so they at least leave with something, 1 bonus point. We've had a decent afternoon's rugby.
We've had a great afternoon's rugby. We've had some extreme entertainment. There's been a lot of good rugby played. You know, as we said at half time, you probably could double the score and it wouldn't be a surprise. There's been some great opportunities made by both teams. The odd pass, final pass that's gone down, or a really good piece of defence that stopped a try. But you know, I think if it wasn't for the fact that they've lost, that's the 6th game now in the bounce that Melrose have lost, you'd say good performance against a top 4 team, and you know, positives for the future. But you know, they're at that stage now where you know they're losing games week in, week out, and that's again another game that they're within 7 points. That something's going to have to change for them, because they're going to have to try and either see games out. We're back to where we were a few weeks ago against Curry. They're 7-0 down within a minute.
Yeah.
So what's the problem? That's at home. You'd expect Melrose to come out firing, and they're not doing that, and they're giving away easy points very early in the game, which at the end of the day, that it's not the only cause of the defeat today, but certainly you're a 7 point down after a couple of minutes, and you're losing the game by 7 points.
And almost unbelievably, Melrose have played 7, lost 6, and their points difference is only -11. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous statistic, but you're right, they need to start winning rugby matches sooner or later.
Yeah, I mean, the Curry game, I was here reporting for that, and they had opportunities. They got themselves within, pretty much to even Stevens, and then they gave away 2 tries in areas that they probably shouldn't have given away tries. Again today, they've given away a couple of tries where a little bit extra defence. They've defended really well. It's just one lapse in concentration, or a lapse in a couple of lapses in concentration that scored tries. And once you get on that run where you're losing games week in, week out, it becomes very difficult, because although Watsonians had lost 3 on the bounce, they've got that pedigree. They've got a lot of youngsters who haven't got scar tissue, and they haven't got worries about losing games, and you just felt that there was always that little bit extra from them that maybe Melrose didn't quite have.
So as the players clap each other off, it's finished here at the Greenyards. Watsonians are back on the horse after 3 defeats, but Melrose woeful run of close defeats continues. They've lost 6 of their last 6 games, and they'll lick their wounds tonight, albeit with a bonus point, and it's finished here at the Greenyards. Melrose 21, Watsonians 28.
Well, that was extraordinary down at the Greenyards there. We'll return for some reaction. No doubt we'll be getting Andy McLean up. He is the Rugby Radio Man of the Match, sponsored by Oak and Black. Other results for you in the Premiership. Of course, last night it was Hawick 38, Curry 26, GHA 24, Ayr 42. Both teams getting a try bonus there. Kelso 20, Heriots 40 is a full-time score. Melrose, as we've just heard, 21. Watsonians 28. Melrose just getting the 1 losing bonus point this afternoon. And Selkirk 46. Glasgow Hawks 35. An 81-point game, but all 5 points going to Selkirk, who have now got back-to-back wins both at Philip Hawke. In National 1, Boroughmuir 54. Gordonians 26. Edinburgh Accies were still waiting on the full-time score of that one. At the moment, it was 82 points to 5 to Edinburgh Accies. Will they have made the 100 by the time the full-time result comes in? Gala have won 29 points to 21 against Biggar. And how about this one? Glasgow Accies were 33-7 up to Mar, the unbeaten top of the table. It's ended Glasgow Accies 33, Mar 33. High-scoring 66-point draw at Annisland. And Stirling 76, Musselburgh 14 is a final result in National 1. In National 2, Berwick get their first points of the season. It's a losing bonus point. Berwick 7, Newton Stewart 12. Falkirk 25, GHK 36. Highland 31, Peebles 24. Highland have got up to win in that game. They were 14 points down. Howe 5, 41, Dundee 7 in the derby, and Kirkcaldy 12, Stewart's Melville 52. Those are the results. We'll put some meat on the bones very, very shortly.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
Borders Mortgage Hub.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
think we can go to Braidholme, and Sam Matthews covering that game for us today. GHA against Ayr.
Ayr return to the top of the Premiership table. Final score, GHA 24, Ayr 42. The second half was totally different from the first half, with GHA actually really showing their worth, and as I mentioned in my preview, really looking like a top-class Premiership outfit. They really took it to Ayr in the second half, but it was just too steep of a mountain to climb. Ayr secured the bonus point in the first half with tries through McGuthrie, Robbie Orr, Brent Jackson, Jamie Shedden and Blair McPherson. GHA's Rudy Campbell got a brace in the first half either side of the Shedden try. That took them into the Sheds 10-35. The second half came out and I did worry it was going to be quite a similar thing, as Lewis McNamara got on the score sheet for Ayr 1 minute and 15 seconds into the second half to take Ayr out to a 10-42 lead. But as I mentioned, the second half it really showed a different side to it. GHA really played their part. They played well. They scored a real collector's piece of a kick try with penalty advantage to the far corner. Caleb Brown plucking it out the air and putting it down. Drummond got 2 conversions in the second half. Unfortunately, the third try was claimed by about 5 forwards as they all came up from a line-out maul, and it never got confirmed who the try scorer was. But it ended with the final score in a valiant GHA effort. GHA 24, Ayr 42.
Philip Hall, today it was Selkirk against Glasgow Hawks. Selkirk getting their second 5-pointer in the space of 7 days. David Barnes from the offside line was there for us.
Just seen Selkirk defeat Glasgow Hawks 46-35 in a match which ended up much closer than it looked on the hour mark when Selkirk were in complete control. The home side had the bonus point wrapped up by the 35th minute. With 4 unanswered tries coming from winger Ben Pickles, a brace from fullback Callum Anderson, and the first of 2 scores from centre Andrew Grant-Sutty. It should be said that Hawks didn't help their case with the first Anderson try, a 70-yard interception gift. But to be fair to the visitors, they rallied with tries either side of half-time from Brandon Sweet and I think Seb Hastings, although I'm going to have to check that. But Selkirk kept their side of the scoreboard ticking over with a penalty from Maurice Clemenston, and then when Grant-Sutty went over for his second and replacement Ross Wolfenden scored a second interception try for the Borderers, it looked like it was game over. Hawks, to their credit, fought back with 3 scores in the final quarter from Scott Steele, Scott Gray and Andrew Syme, which salvaged a bonus point and opened up the possibility of a losing bonus point, which was kind of unthinkable around the hour mark. But Selkirk closed the gates with a Ross Wolfenden penalty, which finished off the match and meant Glasgow Hawks returned with just 1 bonus point from their game, and Selkirk can look forward to their trip up to Golden Acre next weekend with 2 wins, home wins in the back pocket.
Thank you to David Barnes from the offside line. Of course, let's move on to the Greenyards again. Angus Runciman, captain of Melrose, is now with Robin.
Yes, thanks for joining us, Angus. As always, another tough and close defeat. You conceded an early try again. That seems to be an issue this season.
It is. It seems to be a bit of a bother with us kind of every game. Sadly, just takes a bit of a boot up the backside in order for us to try and get going, which we could do to resolve. But
yeah, and the loss of Logan Kirk didn't help either. That made it a difficult afternoon, from a line-out point of view.
Absolutely, aye. It was the scenario we talked about that we really, really hoped didn't happen. It was a worst-case scenario for us, obviously not having a replacement hooker on the bench, but the guy stepped up. Jack Dobie went in at hooker and scrummed really well at hooker, and then, as I say, between William Ferry and whoever else chucking in as well, it was always going to be a hard task, but they did what they could.
And I think with other results, Angus, now that almost unbelievably leaves you at the foot of the table. As skipper, how do you rally the troops this week?
I think we just need to continue to arguably not do what we've been doing, but just do what we've been doing a wee bit better, because again, as painful as it is to say, we've been really close every week, which is a bit of a bittersweet thing. But yeah, look, we just need to kind of nail down our wee bits of problems, and I really think we should be quite happy going into next week. And
it is Glasgow Hawks here next week. Are we at sort of must-win territory yet?
100%. Today was a must-win. Last week arguably was a must-win as well. No, nobody wants to be at the bottom of the league, and we could just get another win in to try and keep the ball rolling. But look, next week is absolutely must-win.
Well, Angus, thanks for joining us. As always, commiserations. We wish you well for next week. I'm going to bring in Andy McLean of Watsonians. You guys were exceptionally quick out the blocks this afternoon. You must have been delighted with how the game started.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've actually been pretty good at the blocks the last 3-4 weeks, really. We've always played quite well first half. We've been, I think, up at half time the last 3 games, so it's always been second half. I think even today we weren't great second half, but yeah, quick out the blocks.
And you yourself back in the 10 jersey today, young Harry Clark at 12. You guys look like you've got a pretty good thing going on.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Harry Clark's probably the best 18-year-old I've seen that I've played with, to be honest, at his age. He's got everything, doesn't have any weaknesses in his game, so it's a pleasure to play alongside him. He makes my job easy.
And a big 5 points on the road for you guys this afternoon after 3 tough losses. You've got Hawick at home next weekend. They had a good win last night, obviously, but it's another chance for you guys to pick up points.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's obviously the aim. The aim was to come here and get 5 points, but obviously looking at that result last night, Hawick won't be any easy task at home.
Well, we wish you well for that, Andy, and you are today's Oak and Black Rugby Radio man of the match. You just shaded young Mr. Clark, so congratulations. Well played.
Cheers, thank you.
Melrose losing that by 21 points to 28. The final result, which is just coming in now at Raeburn Place in National 1, Edinburgh Accies 89, Jed Forest 5 was a final result. We can go back to Braidholme because Robbie Orr from Ayr is now with Sam Matthews.
Well, Robbie, first half and second half were very different, but most importantly 5 points and you're back at the top of the Premiership.
Yeah, no, it was good win. The boys did well. We've not played in 2 weeks, so obviously a wee bit of rustiness there, but overall happy with the 5 points. Played some good rugby in the first half, scored some good tries, and then second half probably just get dragged into their game a wee bit. They're a good team, defend well, lots of heart when they play at home, so maybe just get dragged into the game a wee bit, give away too many penalties, and probably left some points out there in the second half, but no, overall pretty happy.
Well, you mentioned that you got dragged into their game, but it had a real bit of niggle to it at some point. Obviously there's a few players that have worn both shirts before. Bardelli got a bit of stick in the pre-game chants, but how is it when you have to try and keep the head and keep a professional attitude towards it?
It's difficult. I think obviously I've not played here before, I don't know a lot of the boys, but a lot of the boys are pals off the field, I think, so I think it's easy to get sucked into that. You see your mate across them, you obviously want to put a shot in, but it's just trying to keep your head and not give away too many penalties, but it is difficult.
And then obviously getting a try for yourself is always nice, but what seems to be quite consistent with Ayr this year is, as much as Shedden's now got 5 tries to him, right, it seems to be the tries are getting split right amongst the squad. How much is it that you can score with a player with any number on their jersey?
Yeah, it's good. We've got quality players across the full team. It's not just individuals. Head coach Grant spoke about that before the game. He said it's not about who scores the tries, it's about a team performance, and I think we showed that today. Anyone can score from anywhere on the pitch, and everyone's got good skills, so yeah, we're in a pretty lucky position, to be honest with you.
Well, your head coach just walked past as you said that. He said soft, muffledly, and you've got Kelso coming up to Millbrae next week. I don't like the sound of that if you might have to hold a tackle bag on Tuesday.
I know. No, Kelso will be a good team, it'll be a good test for us, so aye. Back to drawing board Tuesday and we'll go from there.
Robbie Orr from Ayr talking to Sam Matthews. A big win for Ayr as they go back to the top of the table. Well, we mentioned Gala winning today against Biggar, and I think we can rejoin you in Swinton.
I'm joined now by Kai Jones, who joined Gala this year from the United States. He will be enjoying what looks like Californian sunshine here in Gala. How did that feel today for you, Kai?
Oh, it's great. It's great to get another win. Hopefully be moving up the table here soon. A couple big games coming up. Boys stuck in well. Still a lot to improve, a lot to work on, but we'll keep at it.
Great stuff, Kai. How are you finding Scottish rugby?
I'm loving it over here. A bit cold coming from California, but I'm loving it. Everyone's being very welcoming, very kind, and nothing couldn't get better than this pitch. So.
How can he possibly say it's cold in Scotland? It's a beautiful day today, and it's almost it for today as well. The closing headlines in the Premiership: there were wins for Hawick last night against Curry, Heriot's, Ayr, Watsonians and Selkirk in the Premiership. In National 1, Boroughmuir, Edinburgh Accies, Gala, Glasgow Accies and Stirling County. The National 2 winners were Newton Stewart, GHK, Highland, Howe Fife and Stewart's Melville. Full results and tables will be up at rugbyradio.co.uk and bordersrugby.net very, very soon. But my thanks to the team today: Robin Purdy, Ian Hurd, Barbara Shield, Sam Matthews, David Ferguson, Ewan Swinton, David Barnes and Colin Black. Don't forget, our Scottish Club Rugby Roundup podcast will be available later this evening at our social media channels and wherever you get your podcasts from, with more reaction from players and coaches across the 3 top divisions. But for now, from me and the team, a very good night.